This debate was independently reviewed after the live stream by a professional researcher. Every substantive, checkable, factual claim made by each participant was extracted, researched, and scored using a predefined methodology. Findings are based on primary documents, official statistics, academic reference works, and established nonpartisan sources. Opinions and value judgments were not fact-checked. Verdicts appear throughout the debate in real time.
I don't know if you want to start off whichever your disagreement was.
Mainly my disagreement was that both parties are manipulating us, and that could remind me if I'm wrong, but you was basically saying that both parties manipulating us, that don't vote and all that stuff. Like,
No,
give
I
me,
never
give me
said
your,
that. I never
well,
said
yeah,
that.
give me your position. What it was again? Because that's the impression I got when I was watching the video.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's not what you said in the comments. So, I'll just bring up what you actually said in the comments.
Okay.
So initially, and I don't know if this was in order, but initially your first comment was, bro. So I'm gonna read this verbatim. Bro,
Mhm.
you so freaking slow. Charlie Kirk was not racist. That's not how you spell racist.
Oh, that's what it
Can you
was.
turn me down
Okay.
in the background on the TV? You got me playing. If you could turn, or I don't know if you, I hear myself. If you could turn me down, I don't know if you have something playing in the background. I don't know
Nah,
if
you
it's
just on my phone. You just on my phone.
okay. Okay. Hopefully it's not echoing too bad, but yeah, let's reread it. You said, "Bro, you so freaking slow." Charlie Kirk was not racist. That's not how you spell racist. But you called me slow, and then you said, "And how you ain't realize that is sad." Laughing emoji. And that brother who explained the Democrats' history didn't tell not to. You don't have to, if you're saying didn't tell not, it's already in the didn't. You don't have to say didn't tell not. Didn't tell not one lie. You over here speaking feelings and shit. Okay, and then the next comment you said, and bro, Republicans fought. That's not how you spell fought. Fought is F-O. You
I
put F-A
mean, focus on the
to
point,
free
bro. Nobody
us.
here for grammar school,
And
G. Focus
well,
on the
it's not
point.
about no, it's not about grammar school, but
That don't matter,
you're gonna
bro.
give me an
Focus on the point.
opportunity. Okay, you ain't got to cut me off, bro. I'm bringing you your comments. This is what you said, so you don't have to go against. This is you refuting your own point if you going against it. I'm just reading what you said verbatim because
No,
this is
I'm
how a debate
saying that
works.
the grammar don't
Yeah, but let
matter,
me.
bro.
But no,
Like,
I think it does matter in a logical debate
it
if you're having
don't.
a conversation with somebody. I think grammar does matter. Grammar matters a lot. So I'm gonna finish reading what you said because again, was your presentation to my content. And bro, Republicans fought again. That's not how you spell fought. But again, you initially called me slow to free us, and we forgetting that there were way more white people in America back then than blacks. We would not be free without them making that decision to go to civil war over us. And then the last comment you said, Republicans tried to stop these racist laws, but you not mentioning the KKK was running around killing Republicans. Okay. So we got that out the way. So that was your initial, I guess disagreement to what I said. And so do you want to kind of go a little bit more into that, or
Yeah.
do you want more clarification on my initial point? Because when you initially came up, you said that I said don't vote, and I said that both sides are manipulating us. Neither of those things came out of my mouth, and that's why I think grammar and things you say is important because your initial comment had a lot of grammar, had a lot of it was incorrect in its grammar, and then you were incorrect when you initially brought up my point because I never said people shouldn't vote, nor did I say that both sides are manipulating us. I never said that.
Oh, well, when you spoke about the comments that I mentioned, it must have been in response to you mentioning Charlie Kirk as a racist. But give me what your point was in the video and what you were discussing in the video so I can have a refresher of what I was commenting on.
Okay, so
But
just
based
real,
on
so real quick, just so we know, just so we on the same, just so we on the understanding. You don't know what my initial point was.
Well, based on what I responded, I'm guessing that you said that Charlie Kirk was a racist and that the Republicans weren't representative of us based on my response to the comments. But based on my memory, because it was a while ago, I remember you saying that Republicans wasn't for us. And
Okay,
that's a big disagreement with me
okay.
in the Charlie Kirk
So,
thing.
no, my point was in that video was to say that the Democratic Party is a piece of shit. Can we at least come to common ground on that? I'm assuming you're not a
Oh
Democrat.
yeah,
I'm assuming you're a
yeah.
Republican, right? So we can
Yeah,
both agree that the Democratic Party is a piece of shit. And I also said in the video that the Democratic Party deserves more scrutiny from Black Americans specifically because it's the part of this we've been connected to, and it's been the most racist towards us. Did you hear that aspect of it in the video? Because I said that in the video.
Now, I didn't hear that part
Of
specifically,
course you
so that's
didn't,
my
but I
fault.
definitely said that the Democratic Party should be under more scrutiny. I said verbatim, I think I said the light should be held under the Democratic Party more than the Republicans because the Democratic Party is the side that we've been connected to for so long. I said that in the video, but of course you don't have no recollection of that. And I also said that does not take away from the racism and that does not take away from the racist tactics that the Republican Party has put against Black Americans as well. I also said that. So that's what I
Okay, that
said.
part I disagree with that.
Okay, so go ahead. You got the flow.
So yeah, so we're gonna call Republicans racist. We got to go back to where it all started.
I didn't
When it
say the
goes,
Republicans are racist. I said the
well,
Republicans has
you
used
know,
racist
racist take.
tactics against Black Americans.
Okay, and I'm gonna address that. And then also give me the examples of the racist tactics that you said that they've done because in my knowledge, in my history, the Republicans have been for black people since the beginning. They were founded by black people and white people. And the white people who helped founded the Republican Party also helped freed slaves, particularly in the South. They made a whole movie about this, about the founding of that party. So the tactics or whatever that you're saying Republicans initiate against us,
Well,
I don't stand by.
let's get to this
Oh,
point because this is a point that you mentioned. You said Republicans fought to free us. Can you expand on that point when you said Republicans fought to free us?
so during the Civil War moment, there was the North and the South. A lot of people got the misconception that the South was Republicans and North was Democrats, but it wasn't like that. It was actually flipped. But there were also people in the South who didn't agree with slavery, who was going around freeing camps, freeing slaves, and then those free slaves that they would free would also pick up guns and arms to fight the racist people who were trying to keep us enslaved. And then a lot of those people in that movement went on to go found the Republican Party. And a lot of people don't know that. Like so many.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say yeah, like so many Republicans and stuff like that, especially in the South back then in the early days. Those Republicans, a lot of them were white people who fought against who fought to free slaves, and a lot of them were recently freed slaves who decided to stay in the South and start building up, the community after the Civil War. But those white Republicans and black free slaves who were Republicans, a lot of them got killed, massacred, and just forgotten to the test of time because the Ku Klux Klan literally went on a whole killing spree, killing these people. Like it got so bad to the point where black people they either did not vote or if they voted, it was only for Democrats. And people think the Ku Klux Klan only killed black people. They was killing white people too, white Republicans in particular. But you that's like a little taste of what I was mentioning. But you can go from there.
Okay. Do you know why the Civil War was started?
Uh, yeah, I know a big part of it was
No,
the
no, no. Just
abolishment of slavery.
why did the Civil War start? What started the Civil War?
Or I know it had a good portion to do with Abraham Lincoln making slavery legal, and people
No,
in the South didn't want to get rid of it.
no, that didn't start the Civil War. What started the Civil War was the fact that the South seceded from the North, which created the Confederacy. They seceded from the North because the South, the Confederacy, thought that Abraham Lincoln was basically going to be. They had a fear that he would abolish slavery. So, with that being the case, they
That's
seceded
literally
from
what
the
I just
Union.
said.
You're not letting me finish though. They did
That's
not.
right.
That's not why the Civil War started. But you have to let me finish. You have to let me finish my
Okay.
point because I let you finish your point fully.
Okay.
So the South seceded from the North, or it really wasn't the North. It was called the Union. They were all together as one. It was United States of America. The South seceded from the Union, and they called themselves the Confederacy, right? And with that being the case, they saw Abraham Lincoln as a threat to slavery. Abraham Lincoln did not when the war started not because to end slavery. The war started to keep the Union intact. Do you even know when the Civil War started?
I forgot the specific date,
It
but
started in
I'm gonna.
1861.
Yeah, but
1861
I'm
is when the
gonna.
Civil War started. Now, do you know
I
when
got.
the do you know when it, Abraham you know Abraham Lincoln had slaves himself, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of the
Okay.
past
Do you
presidents had slaves.
right. Okay. Now, do you know that how long after the when the Civil War started, how long after did the Emancipation Proclamation come about?
Not gonna lie to you, I don't know the exact date.
You should
So I
know though,
mean,
since this is the
got
point
to
that
think.
you should know though, because this is the point that you mentioned in the chat, brother. You should know this. It happened 2 years later. So when you say that the Civil War started to end slavery, no, it did not. The Civil War started to keep the
I
Union
mean,
involved,
pause
keep the
on
Union
that.
together.
You literally explained what I had said, but you just added all the
No, I didn't.
minute
I asked you
details.
a
You
simple
said
question. Listen to me.
no,
I
no, no.
asked you a simple question.
You
Hold on,
said
because I
the
want to make sure that we said
Confederacy.
what I said exactly. No, I did not
Yeah,
say.
but
I asked you a
okay,
question. What's your name? Just so what's your name, bro?
Dietrich.
Dietrich. Dietrich. I asked you very simply. What started the Civil War? And
And
you
I had
said
said,
slavery. Slavery did not start the Civil War, Dietrich. The
well,
Civil War
bro,
was started because of the Union.
if they left the Union because they didn't want to give up slaves, that's essentially what I said,
No,
bro.
it's
You're
no,
just
it's
adding
not.
a bunch of fluff.
The
Like
reason why,
you're just
okay, the
adding
reason
fluff.
why
Like I
you don't gotta
literally
raise your
said the
voice.
same thing.
Why you
Like
raising your voice? It's a debate, bro. Why is you raising your voice?
because it's like it's silly to
Yeah,
me
but
that
you
you're
don't.
you're
It can be
saying you're
silly, but
saying
just
I
debate it
don't
though.
know the reason. You're saying I don't know the reason, but I literally gave the reason.
Listen
You
to
just
me.
added all the extra detail, but
Deatrice, I
it's
don't.
literally
I think you listening, but you're not following what I'm saying because you just want to respond. It's a debate, bro. So if you saying it is silly, just debate it with facts. You don't have to raise your voice or none of that. You don't have to turn into none of that type of conversation. Just listen to what I'm saying.
I'm chilling, bro. But okay,
Just listen to what
all
I'm
right.
saying though, because I'm being open to what you're saying. Be open to what I'm saying. I asked you simply what started the Civil War. You said slavery. Slavery did not start the Civil War. The Civil War was started because the South seceded from the Union. Abraham
Because of
Lincoln,
what?
you got to let me finish what I'm trying to say though. Every time I say something, you cut me off, bro.
Okay,
Abraham Lincoln didn't even care about stopping slavery from the jump. He cared about keeping the United States the United States. That's what he cared about. He only made it available to where that the and you do realize even when the Emancipation Proclamation came out, that didn't abolish slavery. That just gave certain parts of the South where people were enslaved, people were allowed to be free and then enlist into the Union Army so that they can fight. So really, and it was. Do you? Let me ask you this: do you even know when that was? Like, do you even know? Or let me ask you a better question: do you even know
okay.
that? Do you even know? Let
Can
me
I can
finish
I
what I'm
talk
saying.
now?
No,
Can
you
I talk
cannot, because
now?
I'm. Let me finish what I'm saying, bro.
So I'm just
Even
finna
with
get
that,
lazy and
even all that
freestyle.
being the case, do you even know how many black people even fought in this in the Civil War?
I don't know the exact number, bro, but that has nothing to do with my
It
point that I
does. I'm
said
making
before.
another point, Dietrich. I'm making another
So
point. I'm making a
are
point to
you
say
just
that the
gonna
Republic.
just keep adding points and points,
Okay.
and I can't never talk?
You
So
can
is that
talk, but
what you
every
do?
time I try to get to a point, bro, I'm getting to a point, and I'm trying to ask you a question based on that point, and you just because you don't like what I'm saying, you just jump in and just refute it and cut me off. Don't do that, because I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna give you the floor. I promise you, I'm gonna give you the floor. I promise you, I'm gonna give you the floor. You have my word. I'm gonna give you the floor, but you gotta let me get the floor and get my perspective, brother. I'm going to give you the floor, teachers. Respectfully, I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm asking you these questions because I want to see if you following me. You said you don't know how many
Okay.
black people or black men were involved in the Civil War. It was almost 200,000 black men involved in the Civil War. When your initial comment says Republicans fought to free us, and I told you that's not true because the Union Army had nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. It just so happened to be Abraham Lincoln was a Republican president at that time. The Union wasn't a Republican army. The Union was a Democratic party. It was the army under the United States of America, and Abraham Lincoln just so happened to be a Republican president. He did not initiate the Emancipation Proclamation until 2 years after the Civil War had already started. So when you say the Civil War was started because of slavery, no, it wasn't. And when you say freed us, only people that freed black Americans were black American men fighting in the Civil War because the Emancipation Proclamation came about and they were able to fight for themselves to get their own freedom. So it was and 80% of the people that was in that war that were black men, 80% of them came from the South. Now you have the floor. Go ahead. Refute what I said.
Okay, so first off, you said that I got it incorrect as to why slavery, I mean not why the Civil War started, but then you went on to explain that essentially the Civil War started because the South did not want to abolish slavery. So they left America because they didn't want to give up slavery. So it's like I literally said that but you added all the extra fluff to make it seem like I was wrong about exactly what you just said. You just said the same thing, but you just added all the extra detail that, oh, they left because they didn't want to give up slavery, so they left the Union, and Abraham started the war to force them back into the Union. But essentially, the whole war started because of slavery. The South didn't want to get rid of slavery, so they said, "Bump this, we gonna leave." But it still proves my point that the Civil War started because of slavery. So because I didn't add the extra fluff, that makes me incorrect. Now the second thing, when it comes to 200,000 Black Republicans, those 200,000, I mean,
Wait, what?
not Republic, not Republicans, but those 200,000 Black people fighting in the war helped. It helped. Don't get me wrong, but you're talking about a country that was over 1 million people back then. That 200,000 was a drop in the bucket. If white people back then decided we're not going to go to civil war about this, if white people said we're not going to go to war about this, if Abraham Lincoln decided to fold and say, all right, I ain't going to get rid of slavery, so y'all don't leave the Union. If those white people decided to make those decisions, those 200 Black people wouldn't be able to do shit.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
So,
I'm not disagreeing with
so
that.
okay,
I
good.
never disagree with that.
So it's like you can't say Black people are the reason Black people are free. And I'm not trying to like ride the white man nuts or nothing, but it's like people gotta realize white people in this country, it's some ignorant motherfuckers who are white in this country. Don't get me wrong, but there's so much opportunity, so much shit we would not have even experienced if white people didn't wake up one day and say, "Oh, this shit wrong." Like slavery didn't start with them people, but all right, now back to the Republican. Now the third point, the Republicans. Republicans did fight in the war, and the reason why I say that is because a lot of white people in the South did not agree with slavery, so they went from plantation to plantation, freeing people who fought in the South. It was like militias, basically. It was like white and Black militias running around in the South during the Civil War when they was fighting. They wasn't doing that much damage, but they was causing a nuisance enough to where we were able to get certain wins and beat the South. And those people in that militia group, they went on to found the Republican Party. I forgot the specific name of the movie and the documentaries I watched on this, but anybody watching, you can literally Google the movie, you can Google the documentaries. They've done so many stories on how it was white people in the South who went from plantation to plantation, freeing Black slaves, and then those slaves joined forces with those men, and they ran around the South in a militia type format fighting. It was just a bunch of random civilians fighting in the South so that men could be equal. So, and then those people went on to be Republicans. So, if I'm not mistaken, that's all the points, the 3 points we just tackled. So you can take it from here.
Yeah. So initially, when I was speaking, I was giving you context. By the way, too, I gave you the floor for about I don't know how long, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. So you can't say I'm cutting you off, not letting you speak. I gave you the floor. When I was initially speaking, I was giving context. Context matters. So when you come about and you speak, and I ask you what started the Civil War, and you just say slavery, and you speak from a perspective as if it was just these good old white men in the South just wanted to stop the blacks from being oppressed, or not even in the South, but just in America, just wanted to stop the blacks from being in slavery. That's not true. Nuance matters. You have to add context to things. Context matters when you're making a point, especially in a debate, because you make blanket statements like that, you're not adding a caveat. Well, then misinformation gets thrown around. The Civil War didn't just start because the North wanted the slavery to stop and the South wanted slavery to continue. That's not what happened. And again, even when the South seceded from the North, there was no paperwork, or the Emancipation Proclamation still had not even come out yet. It didn't come out until 2 years later. So that's the point that I was trying to make. The Civil War didn't just start because, hey, Abraham Lincoln said, hey, by the way, we're going to stop slavery. And then your point would make sense if Abraham Lincoln said, hey, y'all, here go the Emancipation Proclamation. It's 1861. And then the South seceded from the North. That's not what happened. The South had already seceded from the North. The war started. Do you know where the war started at, by the way? Do you know who shot at who first?
I don't know who shot at who first, but I'm gonna take a good guess that the North probably threw the first shot
No,
because
wrong,
President.
wrong, wrong. It
Oh,
was at Fort Sumter. The Confederacy threw the first shot. Actually, no, it was the Confederacy. They threw the first shot at Fort Sumter.
okay.
That's what started the war. That's what actually started the war. So I'm not saying that slavery had nothing to do with the Civil War. That's not what I said at all. I said slavery did not start the Civil War.
So
Your
let me
point
ask
will
you
make,
this.
bro, I'm not finished. I gave you the floor for about almost 5 minutes. All I'm doing is telling you that I'm giving context to the initial point that slavery, the Civil War started because the South seceded from the North. And Abraham Lincoln's whole entire goal was not just to stop slavery. His goal was to keep the Union intact. That is factual. That's not an opinion. That's not how I feel. That's factual. Now, your second point, because you said, because basically you're arguing like there were some good white guys. Okay, there were maybe some good white guys. But basically your point was like, well, if I'm beating your ass, if I got a girl and I whoop her ass for 10 years we've been together, and then I stop whooping her ass for 10 years, are you saying that I should get a pat on the back for not whooping her ass for 10 years, even though I was whooping her ass for the first 10 years?
How does that analogy
I'm
fit
bringing
to?
that up because you said if it wasn't for the whites, then because you brought up the Civil War, you brought up because I brought up about almost 200,000 black men were in the Civil War and they fought for their own freedom because the North was you do realize that the North was getting their ass kicked, right? They was getting fucked up, which is the only reason why Abraham Lincoln even made the Emancipation Proclamation because he was like, all right, we getting fucked up. We need these black people who are slaves. We can use them as help because we getting messed up. Which also most of those slaves came from the South. It was going to mess up the labor. It was going to mess up the labor in which the South was, because obviously black people were the labor. It's free labor for the most part. So he wanted to disturb that. So he cared more again to keep the Union together than the actual slaves. But the point that I'm making is, as far as the what point was I done lost my point now. What point was I? Because you had jumped in.
You were saying because the 200,000 black
Thank you,
people
thank you,
came
thank you, thank you.
in.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So you made a point and you said, well, if it wasn't for the white people that was a part of that war, then black people would have never been free. I'm not disagreeing with that. We weren't the majority in the time at that point. So of course that would be the case. I'm not disagreeing with that. There were some white people in that time, but the point that I'm making is the white people that were fighting in that war were not fighting because I just want to just save the blacks. I want to preserve the blacks. It was a war. The Union Army, bro, was not a Republican army. It wasn't a Democrat army. The United States, that was the North, that was not an army that was based on a political affiliation. It was just an army. So regardless of what your political belief at that point was, you were still going to fight in a war because you were part of the army. And even when it comes to the Confederacy, they weren't just fighting for slavery. They also didn't want they wanted to be their own government in the South in general, and they didn't want anything to be imposed from the North. So when you speaking, all I'm doing is adding context to the conversation, and you making these blanketed statements to say, well, the whites freed the slaves, the Republicans freed the slaves.
But
No,
that's
context
where you're
matters to the
missing me.
conversation. Go ahead.
You keep saying I'm making blanketing statements. I'm not. Is it not a fact that the war would have never happened if Abraham Lincoln wasn't trying to get, like, is that not a fact? If slavery was never on Abraham Lincoln's mind in abolishing it, would the war have started? If slavery had never been something that Abraham Lincoln was talking about getting rid of, would that war have started? And that is, if he never said that, the war would have never started because the South would have never even had a reason to separate to initiate the war. So I mean, I can add all the extra context you want, but it's still simply, and I can put it in one sentence. The war would have never started if Abraham Lincoln wasn't trying to get rid of slavery.
He
That
wasn't
was
trying to get
the,
rid of slavery though. He was trying to keep
but
the Union together. That's what I just
you
told you
keep
multiple
saying it.
times.
You keep saying it, but why was the Union falling apart? Because he was trying to get rid of
No,
slavery.
but the Emancipation Proclamation did not come out until 2 years after the Civil War.
Once again, that didn't come out till 2 years after the Civil War. But the only reason that even came out and the Civil War happened because in point one, we over here. This is where Abraham
I'm
Lincoln comes
following
into
you. I'm
office.
following you.
He's talking about getting rid of slavery.
No, it's
For
because they
one,
were losing. The North was
uh,
losing, so he needed more help.
I'm getting to the point where Abraham Lincoln gets into office. He gets into office. So one, the people in the South mad because Abraham Lincoln won the election. Two, somebody just won the election who's talking about getting rid of slavery. Three, they decide in the South that, oh, we're finna leave because we don't like Abraham Lincoln. He ain't my president and he ain't finna get rid of my slaves. So now
Okay,
they leave.
let's do this. Let's
It,
do this because
it's
you
so
did
it's like
mention
so it's like where's the confusion,
it's
brother?
not a
Like
confusion. It's not a confusion. All I'm doing is adding context, and you don't want to add the context. I'm telling you that the Emancipation Proclamation didn't come out until after the Civil War had already started. That's what it
I
came out with.
understand it.
So the start of the Civil War was not just because slavery. It was because the South seceded from the North, and Abraham Lincoln's main goal was to keep the Union
Why did
together.
they succeed from the North? You keep missing that.
I'm not
Why did
missing
they?
that. I'm
Why did
not
they
missing that.
succeed?
I'm not missing that at all. And the only thing the only thing that slavery was not the only thing that they weren't fucking with. It was Abraham Lincoln in general, his whole policies. It wasn't just slavery. The point that
I
I'm
just
making
said
to you is okay. Then the point that I'm making to you is I'm not saying that what you're saying is fully wrong. I'm adding context to say that I already told you multiple times the Emancipation Proclamation did not come out until 2 years later. That's what I'm telling you. So
I
sure,
get
that
that.
was slavery was a huge portion of it. And what that being, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I never said that that was wrong. What I'm telling you
But you
is,
said
and your
blanket
point,
statements. You said
no,
I was
you're making
making
blatant
blanket
statements.
statements.
You're making blatant. I'm looking at the comment on thing. You said Republicans fought to free us. That's not true.
The Republicans did fight to free us because, like I told you, there were militias in the South.
Name the Republican
Free,
Army.
free
Name the
slave.
Republican Army.
They didn't. Well, I forgot the name of the Pacific name.
No,
They
no, no.
went
Don't
by
mention
Pacifics.
individual. Don't mention individual militias. You said the Republicans.
I'm
Republicans in a
not gonna.
broad statement, brother. That's a
But because
broad statement when you say
you're asking
Republicans.
me to remember all these
No,
militias
no,
and
no. I'm
random
not. I'm not
groups.
asking you to do that. Listen to what I'm saying, Dietrich.
Okay, well,
Dietrich, listen to what I'm
I'm not
saying.
gonna do this.
I'm not
Okay,
asking you to do that. I'm asking you. I
okay.
didn't ask you to name every single Republican faction that came or some militia group. That's not what I'm asking you. You said in your comment, Republicans fought to free us. When you say Republicans, you're speaking in a vague way, and when you using the Republicans fought to free us, you're talking about the Civil War. So when you're speaking about the Civil War and you're saying Republicans, well, the only Civil War that happened where was the Army was the Union versus the Confederacy. That was the war. So hold on, let me.
I
I'm
understand.
about to give you the
Okay.
floor. So you mentioning little individual factions that may have happened in the South. I'm not negating that. I'm not negating that. But that doesn't mean Republicans fought to free us. That just means that there were factions in the South, there were some abolitionists or whoever who had a different mentality. I'm agreeing with that. But when you say Republicans fought to free us, that's a blanketed statement without adding a caveat that there are so many other new ones that you need to add on. The Civil War happened, and the Civil War was not about Republicans versus Democrats. It wasn't the Democrats were trying to keep slavery, Republicans weren't, and they went to war. That's not what happened. The army was not a Republican or a Democratic war. It was an army, and it didn't matter what your political affiliation was. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, I never said that the North was Republican and the South were
No, I didn't
Democrats. In
say
the
you said that.
comment, okay, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, but I feel like that's what we going towards.
I
But
don't
when I
want no
say
you. I don't want you to think that. Or nobody to think that. But I got you. Go ahead.
okay, so when I say Republicans fought to free us in the war, that is a true statement, and and I'll explain why. Because those groups, those militias, and all those random groups in the South that I mentioned, they went
Okay,
on to found the Republican Party.
let's go with that.
They were the literal founders.
Let's go with
So
that. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. Did the Democrats fight to free us too?
no,
So there were no Democrats in that army at all in that war. There were no Democrats.
the Democrat Party, to my knowledge, like that didn't come around until the Republican Party came around. Because, like you said before, they went by the Confederacy. But yeah,
Yeah, but of
Democrats
course, yeah. But we understand that the names but we understand that the ideology was kind of the same. Is the point that I'm making.
well, the Democrat ideology back then did not support free slaves. Like Democrat ideology back then was for the rich and the powerful, and to oppress people.
The
Like
point, okay, but the point that I'm making is everybody in that war on either side wasn't a Republican or Democrat. It didn't matter what your political affiliation was. You mentioning individual little militias that we don't. I guess you can name some that were Republican. I'm sure we can probably look some up. What I'm saying is, regardless of political affiliation, people were in that war because they had to be, and everybody's full motive was, I'm the loving white guy who wants to save the blacks. That wasn't the mentality of the people back then. This was in the late 1800s, my guy.
I never said that white people back then were the loving white guy who has to save the blacks. They just wanted to have free men. Like, was that every white person's mentality that fought to free us? No, but the majority.
The majority of the people back then didn't give a fuck about making black people feel free and together. They gave a fuck
If
about
that was
keeping themselves together. And if it meant that, all right, well, these blacks got to be here too, well then fuck it, because I want to get my benefit at the end.
you can't say that though, because if that was the case, if they were saying that, they wouldn't have voted Abraham Lincoln in, and they wouldn't have fought a war for Abraham Lincoln. They would have just ignored them. Like Abraham Lincoln was one man. He was a voter. He was a motivational man, but he was one dude. Abraham Lincoln was one dude. If whites back then really didn't give two fucks about us, they would not have fought and died in that war to the extent that they did. And then when you go to the white man in the
I'm not
South,
speaking on oil, by the way. I ain't speaking on oil.
okay, but yeah, when you go to the white man in the South, you really can't say that the majority back then didn't give a fuck, because those white men in the South really had to be on their toes, because they literally in their home turf going around freeing slaves and fighting along some of them slaves.
How
And
many
then a
white
lot
men?
of
Okay, let me ask you this: how many white men that were doing were abolitionists and that were just freeing all these blacks? How many of those existed compared to the ones who weren't doing that?
who weren't doing
Yeah,
that.
like let me ask you this: if it was a gun to the back of your head and you had to, if somebody told you,
Mhm.
were there more whites who were trying to free slaves due to their own moral high ground that they just want to save the blacks from slavery and they want to be abolitionists, or were there more whites who really didn't give a fuck or were just pure racists? Like, which one do you
Why is
think
it
was more there was more of back then?
so you ask the abolitionists who didn't give a fuck and pure racist.
No. I'm
Like,
putting I'm putting the last two in the same thing because not everybody
oh,
was just a
so
pure. Hold on, let me. I got you. Not everybody was just a pure. I hate black. Some people just really didn't give a damn. But my at least under the way that I would think, if I see somebody over here getting done dirty and I'm just sitting there watching and I just keep on walking, I'm not as bad as the person that's doing the fucked up shit, but I'm an accessory to it because especially if I have an ability to stop it. So what I'm saying, I'm asking you is, which one do you think there was more of? White abolitionists who cared about the advancement of Black Americans, or do you think there were more whites who really just didn't give a fuck or was just pure racists and wanted the superiority of whiteness? Like, which one do you think happened more of? Whether it was the North or the South, just across America in general. But we could do specifically if we want
overall,
to. Mm?
okay, overall across America, there were more who gave a fuck about us and who were abolitionists.
Okay, so
But
can you name?
let
Can
me
you
explain.
out of how
But
many
let me
millions of people
explain.
back then? Though, out of how many millions of people? Just want to put this on record. Out of how many millions of people? I think he froze.
You can hear me? Oh,
Nah, it's frozen. We can hear you now, but
oh,
you had one out. We can hear you now.
okay, bro. Yeah. I'm not gonna say an exact number, but the reason why I can say it's a majority is because
Well,
me and you are.
let's get a number though.
But once again, bro, you asking me for a number
No, I'm
from
saying I'm about to
over
look it up on my.
200
No.
years?
Listen. You jump into a conclusion, and I'm not saying. Let's look up the population from that time, because this is a real simple question. Let's look at the population. So this would have been what, 1865, 1860?
Yeah, the
What year
18
you want to
mid
go?
1800s.
Okay, so
You do.
let's do 1860. So let's do the population of USA in 1860. Let's just do 1860. Okay, it says the total population in the United States was 31 million people, 31,400, but let's just say 31 million people. Now, let's see how many of those 31 million people were white. Okay, so it says about 26 million, really it's almost 27 million. 26 million, and again, I'm just looking at Google. I ain't finessing it or none. It's just Google, just so y'all
Mhm.
know. It says 26 million of those people, was 85.6 of the country's total population, were white. So if it's 26 million, you cut it in half, it's 13 million. So you think there were at least 13 million whites who really, really cared about the progression of blacks and wanted to be abolitionists to save black people as a collective.
Yeah, I believe that.
Well, we could just agree to disagree on that. That's your perspective. I mean, that's how you want to think. That's how you think.
But let
I
me ask you
disagree.
this: if that wasn't the case, why are we here having this conversation now? Because we'll still be picking cotton if that wasn't the case. We would still be picking cotton, me and you, if that wasn't the case, because we wouldn't have won.
No, they would have
The
killed me.
fact,
They would have killed me. I would have been I would have took some heads
yeah,
off. They would have killed me. But well, let me say that's another thing too. You said we. Are you? I would hope that you a Black American.
yeah, I'm black. I'm black, Mississippi born, Mississippi raised. Like I'm black. I
Your
grew up in
family,
the
like your
South.
family and shit too.
Yeah, I grew up in the South.
Okay, for sure. So You said, ask your question again. How many we would
So
be picking slaves if it wasn't for, we would be picking cotton if it wasn't for, I guess, the whites?
yeah, yeah, the fact why I know it's a majority, because if it wasn't a majority, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. We would be picking cotton.
No, I think it's, I would disagree. I think it's because black people civilized this country. Black people said, no, we deserve to get treated like everybody else. That's why you had all those revolutions. That's why you see examples of this, you see examples of the civil rights movement. You see examples of black Americans fighting against oppression over the whole entire timeline of the American history. That's why. Because not just because you just had whites that woke up one day and said, we want to be good to the blacks. You had black people, our history, our ancestors, hopefully your ancestors too, who stood up for themselves and they said no. And the reason why I would know that is because, and this is why I say I would know that. If you look at almost every single country who has been colonized, almost every single country that's been colonized, look at the state of the people that are there. Black America, we are, hear me out. Black America is the wealthiest, most intelligent, most prosperous, most influential black people on earth. Melanated people on earth. I really don't consider them people black, but for the sake of conversation, we are the wealthiest, most influential, most prosperous people on us. And you know what else? We also have the most revolutionary history comparative to any other group that you want to name. Melanated people. We just do. So I'm making a point to say a lot of those places, even like with the Haitians, you think the Haitian Revolution, you think the whites just woke up and they said we're going to be good to the black to the Haitians today. No, the Haitians said fuck all that. You think the Ethiopians, when the Italians came over to Ethiopia, you think the Italians were just like, oh, you guys are okay, have a good day. No, the Ethiopians said fuck all that. So the reason why people are able to prosper and where they at, the reason why things change is because of revolution. That's always been the case from day one. It's revolution. Of course, you're going to have people that are not going to be the same. I'm never one of these people to say all white people are racist. I don't believe that. I don't hate white people. I don't think all white people are racist. I'm specifically speaking on the ones who are very much so like that, the outwardly ones, the racist ones. And then you have the white Democrat types, the ones that are quiet, the ones that don't want to say too much, the ones that want to, I don't like you, but I'm just not going to say anything, but I'm still going to go along with the situation that's happening right now. That's the majority. You see that even now in America today. Especially back then, this was the 1860s. This was the
The majority,
1860s.
the majority of whites today aren't like that. And I'm gonna
I don't, no,
attack
no, I
all
don't, no,
point.
no, not like not like that from the 1860s. But
No, I'm talking about what you described after the 1860s, like the silent ones.
the
I
majority
don't
of
really.
white Democrats are that way. I said white Democrats. The majority of white
Oh,
Democrats are
okay,
that way.
okay, okay. I agree with you on that. I
You don't
agree
think
with you
the
on that.
wait, hold on. You don't think the majority of white Republicans are like that though?
No,
Okay,
yeah, not the
all right.
majority. We got a
You
couple,
entitled to your own
maybe a
opinion.
couple, yeah, a couple old heads in there, maybe, but still, I wouldn't say the majority of the white Republicans that we have are like that. But I'm gonna go through all the points. I'm gonna go through the first point that you said that black people are the reason America is today, and that we civilized America.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that when you look at the predominantly black countries across the world, and their poverty is just through the roof, the crime is through the roof. Not only that, if black people are the reason that America is so civilized, why isn't Africa and all those countries on that continent just Wakanda? But they're not.
Well,
Half
Wakanda's
of
not.
the,
Well, hold on. But Wakanda's not.
I
You
know
asking a
Wakanda's
question.
not
Wakanda's not
real.
a real place.
I
Number
know. But I'm
two.
I'm just I'm
Number
exaggerating.
two, number two,
But
my point wasn't that I'm not African. I'm a black American. And I would hope that you would consider yourself a black American. I don't know if you consider yourself an African American. My point of bringing up Haiti, my point of bringing up Ethiopia was to say that the reason why change happens is because of revolution. The reason why a lot of those other countries that you may mention are in poverty, that are in ruin, those people live in shanty towns, they walk around barefoot and shit, is because they don't revolutionize. What they do is they flee their countries and go to the UK. They go to Canada. They come to America. They flee their countries, and the top 10% of most of those countries, the top 10% of that population of most of those countries, the intelligent ones, the ones who have intellectual property, the ones who are skilled labor, intelligent, whatever it may be, they leave and go to these other countries. Now, the reason why is because a lot of these countries that they go to are some of the same countries that exploited these same exact very countries. That's the reason why these European countries that colonized those places made those places exports and not imports. You know what I mean? They don't do that with a lot of other countries like Asian countries and things like that. But again, I only use that example as far as the reason why change happens. But I'm agreeing with you. The reason why a lot of them African countries and Caribbean countries is fucked up because the motherfuckers, the top 10% flee. And the ones that's there don't really give a fuck to create change. So I'm not disagreeing with that.
it's not necessarily the top 10% fleas. A lot of them they want to stay in that country, but you have to realize, like even with slavery only started in America because our descendants sold their brothers and sisters in chains to the white man.
That's true.
Like,
Part
and
of that is true. Yeah.
yeah, and then that's what people gotta realize. Like, I'm not trying to shit on our people, especially in people on the African continents. The 10% would stay there, but a lot of those countries are ruled by crazy ass people who either say get down or lay down.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Like, okay, that's good. So it's like the shit that we do in America, the Trump protest, that shit ain't flying in Africa. So it's like people can't revolt. So I agree with your point on that, that the people in Africa need to revolt, but they won't. And I don't know why. They just ain't got that spirit in them. But that's where I disagree when you say that black people civilized America. I was disagreeing with that point specifically because I mean, black people didn't civilize America. We played a good portion in its history. We played an important part in it. But civilization in America didn't just come from black people.
No. When you say civilization, I'm not talking about the start of
It was
America, the
civilized.
inception.
It was
When I
civilized, I
say
mean. Like,
civilized, I mean operating in a civil manner over at least some type of moral compass. So, for example,
yeah.
right, you being black, I shouldn't just be able to just lynch you just because you're black. You being black, you should get due process. So, for example, the 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendment are prime examples of that. Now, like you do know, like those were things that black Americans were begging for centuries and finally got.
I understand that. But
Right.
lynchings ain't something that was just targeted towards black people.
I didn't say that it was. You're saying that argument. I didn't say that
No, no,
argument.
I'm
Lynchings
saying
were
I'm talking.
majority targeted about black people. But you're right. You had the KKK that was lynching other Republicans. I agree with
And
you.
not
I'm not
not
disagreeing with
not
you.
only that, we got to go to the UK for example. Like the French Revolution, they lynched and beheaded all the monarchs. That's just what crazy people did back
Now this
then.
is
They
the
was
difference, though. This is the difference, though. The difference was you just proved my point too. You said monarchs. The difference is when it comes to American. The reason why people talk about American chattel slavery so much and how it's different from like people like to say, well, other places had slavery too, because this stuff here over in America was really essential and specific because it was based on your biology from birth, right? You had a lot of people that were prisoners of war, people who were they committed crimes or whatever it may be. That's what got them into slavery. When you say monarchs, you're talking about people that are in charge. So maybe it would have been a revolution that you're speaking on. You know what I'm saying? It would have been people fighting back against revolution, whatever it may be. But in America, the reason why it was so different is because it was from birth. Not only is you going to be a slave, your great grandchildren are also going to be slaves too. Not because they did anything wrong, simply because they're breathing and they exist and they look different. That was the difference between America and a lot of these other countries. That's the big difference right there.
I I understand that point you're making, but slavery operated the same way in a lot of those other countries. America wasn't the
Name
first
them.
people to say. I mean, bro, you talking about half the countries in Africa had slaves, Asia, China,
No, we're not
bro. The
arguing that they
great
had slaves. Hold on. Dietrich, we're not
No, no, I'm
arguing
saying,
if they
but
had slaves or not. I never said that. I said that
you
American
said
chattel slavery is
born.
different because it was
Because
from birth. It was your birthright because you look this way or you this type, not because of prisoner of war or not
yeah,
because you did something, you
I'm
committed a crime, and now you're
definitely. I'm
against
giving
that.
you an example, like China, Asia, all the other countries in Africa. They
Shiesty
had that
Avengers Ashton
same
super
particular
chatted
type of
$2.
slavery. Like,
Fire
if
emoji,
your
fire
mom was a
emoji,
slave and
fire
you was
emoji,
born to that
fire
woman, that
emoji,
don't mean you
fire
can just walk
emoji.
off because you a slave in Africa or a slave in China
Well,
or
can you
Asia.
name can you name it? Because I'm not making that claim. Can you name it?
Name
Educate me.
countries.
No,
Name
educate me on the countries or the slavery that they had over there. Educate me the way that it operate. Name the countries and name how it operate.
I mean, I just named China for one, and
Explain
then I
how it
just named.
operated. Wait, who were
Well,
the Chinese enslaving? I'm not saying
their
they didn't
own
have
people.
slavery.
Their own
So
people.
so you do realize that's a difference, right? If the Chinese were enslaving other Chinese, but the Europeans
Okay.
left from Europe took slaves that were in Africa or people that were not slaves, but people they enslaved people that were from Africa and then came to
But
America and also made the Native American slaves too. You realize that's different, right? That's my point.
the reason why you ain't connecting to the point that I'm about to make is because here's the thing: if Africans had sold
No,
slaves
you
to
said Asia.
China,
We talking about China. You talking about Asia.
what I meant to say China, but
Yeah,
if
China.
Africans had Yeah, if Africans had sold slaves to China, I doubt China would have just turned them
What
down.
you saying you
But
doubt is not, that's an assumption. That's not facts. That's an
what I'm
assumption. Well, I
saying,
don't
you talking
think
about?
that it would be that way. That's not an argument.
Can I make my whole point now? Now back to what I'm saying. You saying American slavery is just different and I guess worser because we're born into it, but bro, that just because you're on a different continent, especially back then, slavery wasn't discriminatory or different based on where you were at in the world. If you was a slave and you had a child and you was still a slave, your child was a slave now too.
Okay, can you
And
give
now
me
you're asking for the
educate
list
me
of
because
the
I don't
countries.
know. Educate me because I don't know. Can you explain
Once
these
again,
different places?
once again, I just said a lot of the countries in Africa, the
Name
vast
them.
majority. I can't name every single
I
list of
didn't
all
say
those
name
countries,
every
bro.
single. I'm asking for one. Give me the country and give me the layout on how it operated. What were these people? What was their civilization or empire? I'm asking you to explain it.
Well, if I had to give you one, I would say Nigeria, but that's just one.
Okay, how did
But
it operate?
listen, I don't know the exact operations, but what I do know is that they would literally go from tribe to tribe, village from village, and if their men were stronger than your men and killed your men in the village, the women and children would now be slaves. If those women gave birth to little boys, they would be slaves
So
or
wait,
they
so
would be
wait, so you're saying
warriors.
that there was, so you're saying that there was tribalism going on, correct?
And once those tribals won over the weaker tribe, they would enslave them.
Okay, can
That's
we
how they
fact
became.
can okay, so can you fact check it? Can you give me the tribe, name me how it operated? Because I've never heard that before. I've never heard that ever.
So you've never heard of tribes in Africa enslaving other tribes
That
I have
Shiesty
heard
after
about
they
Evans
tribes in
killed
Afton
all
Africa.
the
super
One second,
chatted
one
men.
second, one second, one
$2.
second,
That's a good assumption ant. Stall him out lol.
one second. Hold on, I was reading a donation. I'm asking you to explain it for me. You said that the slavery that would happen in America was the same slavery that happened in other countries as well, because it was your birthright. I'm asking you to give. You said Nigeria, so explain how that operated.
Like I said, if you had the stronger tribe and if you wanted to conquer, you can go to another tribe, you can
That's
go to
different
another
from
village.
birthright. That's a completely
You're
different
not,
thing,
you're
my
not, you're
guy.
not, let, you're not let me fully explain. But once they captured those people, those children of those captured people would be born into slavery.
Give me an example.
Just because they
Brandon
didn't go buy the
D917T
slaves
super
like how the
chatted
white people
$2.
did,
This
doesn't
raccoon
make it any
babble is
different.
embarrassing.
Once they acquired the slaves through force, the children of those people would in return be slaves as well,
Give me an
unless
example.
those slaves.
Give me an
I
example.
just gave I just gave
You're
you
not giving me
examples,
an
my
example,
guy.
Dietrich. What you're giving me is an
You're
assumption.
asking for a specific incident in history that you,
Yes. When
bro.
you make an
You
argument,
couldn't,
Dietrich, if I tell you that black people were lynched and then you say, well, give me an example. I can give you an example of something that happened in
bro,
time, not just, well, this
bro.
happened like this. No, I'm asking for an example, bro. All I'm asking for is
I
an example
understand,
of a
but
point that you
you
mentioned and brought up.
comparing you comparing a black person being lynched in America
No,
to
I'm not. I
an
just get no.
example of
That had
that.
nothing to do
No,
with
no,
this. Stop,
let
stop,
me
because
finish,
you're not understanding what I'm saying. That had
bro.
nothing
You
to do
didn't
with
let
this
me
point.
finish what
I'm
I was
giving
literally about to say.
because
You're
you're
asking for
misinterpreting what I'm
examples.
saying. You're misinterpreting. So I don't want you to go into a
You
point
ain't
and you're
even let me
misinterpreting
talk.
what I because you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
I didn't finish, so you didn't
You don't
understand
need
the
to bring up that
interpretation.
example. I heard the first part of it. That's a misinterpretation. That's a misrepresentation
You
of what
heard
I
the first
said.
part, but you didn't hear the
Okay,
second
explain
part
it
of
and
my
watch me say the
sentence.
same exact shit. Go ahead, explain it.
Okay. You're over here bringing up the fact of if I ask you about a lynch, I need you to bring up lynching examples. I wouldn't even ask you that because I went to school and I read a book. Like, of course, black people
What?
got lynched. So I would not ask you to give me a specific
But
example of black people getting
okay,
lynched because
okay. So I
that's
didn't
just
go to
common
school.
knowledge.
Okay, I didn't go to school and I didn't learn about this. I'm a dummy that don't know anything. Give me an
That's not
example
that's
of the
not that's
logic
not what
that you
I'm
gave
calling
about
you.
slavery and that Nigerians. What do you even know when Nigeria became a country?
Oh my God. See, now we going to that. Bro,
Do
that
you even
has
know when
nothing
Nigeria
to
became a country?
bro,
You mentioned
no.
Nigeria. Do you know when Nigeria became a country?
Once again, no, but what does that have to do with the point that I'm
It
discussing?
has
What
something to
does
do with the
that?
point because you brought up, you said
No, no.
Nigeria. You said Nigeria, and you don't have any information and facts on Nigeria. You said that, hey, slavery in Nigeria operated like this. It was from your birthright.
No. I
Okay, give
said
me an example of
Africa.
how it operated from the birthright. Well, it happened like this. Give me an example. Well, this is just what I heard. This is what I heard. What I'm
No,
saying.
it's not
Give an
what I just heard.
example.
Once again, bro, I've literally given you examples. You're asking for a specific footnote in history, and what I am trying to get you to see is that, bro, you can literally, just like how you Googled earlier, you can literally Google "Dead tribes in Africa, Africa the continent."
But
Did
this is the
everyone?
difference. I'm the one who
But you,
brought up the point about population. You're the one who brought up the point about Nigeria. So maybe you can Google it. I'm
I
asking
brought
you
up
to
the
fact
point of
check it.
Africa. I brought up the point of Africa.
And I
Then
asked
you
you
asked
where,
for a
and you said
Pacific
Nigeria.
country
You said Nigeria.
because that's one Pacific country.
Right. So
But
it's
overall,
specific, not Pacific. Pacific is the ocean. Pacific is the area. It's not specific. But to that
okay.
point, you said Nigeria. And then I said, okay. And then you said, well, tribes taking over other tribes. So I'm asking you to I'm not educated on this topic. I don't know anything. All I'm asking you is to give me an example of the point that you gave, maybe a civilization, an empire, a tribe that took over another tribe and made that tribe have to go through slavery through your birthright. That's all I'm asking you to do is substantiate your claim. That's
So
it.
so you want me to Google name of a Pacific tribe that enslaved other tribes and just had them enslaved? That's what you want me to
From
Google?
your birthright. From your birthright. Yes, that's what I want you. I don't know how to Google it. I mean, you should know it since you brought it up, but I'm asking you to do that.
I know it because I brought it up. I do know it, but
So
you're
tell me,
asking
because I
for
don't know.
you're asking no, I'm saying but what you're asking me to know the specific name, the date, the time. Ain't nobody trying to learn all that if I know that I can just look at this information that I'm being presented
What
and the
information did you
information
when what information was that presented, Dietrich?
documentaries, countless hours of YouTube videos, books, TV shows, news channels. This is documented history. This is
Okay,
literally documented
so
history
you
that
know, and
anybody at home can Google. Anybody at home can Google
can
this.
you just show the
People in
information? Show.
Africa.
I will YouTube it right now. Show the information. Show the YouTube. Show the documentary. Show it. Since there's so much information, I will look it up on my phone right now.
Okay, let me go to it. Let me go to it.
Well, wait.
Okay, this is a YouTube source right here, and then I'll go on to a Google source. The name of the channel is A Day in History, exposing Africa's part in the slave trade. And it's a 20 minute long video that will go into a
Atim
vast
Chris
amount of
has super
detail
chatted
on how we
$5.
played a
No,
part
he
in
doesn't
it,
know
on
how
how we
tribe
were
war
enslaving
works.
each other,
Then men are
and how a lot of
unalived.
people were
The
born
women
into
slash
slavery
children
in
become a
Africa.
part of the
The
new
born
tribe.
part did not just start in America. Slavery, not only that, slavery is a
Anthony with some
2,000 year
G9R3X
old
super chatted
practice that goes all the way back to the
$19.99.
Greeks. The Greeks, the people who built all those statues of Zeus
Okay,
and
so
Medusa.
okay, we got you.
And then
So
you talking about the Egyptians, all
okay, we
those
got you.
people who
Okay,
died,
we
who
we,
built
we
the Egyptian pyramids. Like the
okay, we
born
got
in
you.
the slavery part did not start in America.
I didn't say
But
that it.
okay,
I said that it was unique to America because it was from people on a whole nother side of the world, and they were enslaved through their birthright for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So, but I want to get because I want to read a couple of the people in the chat. Somebody said he doesn't know how tribe war works. The men are unalive. The women and children become a part of the new tribe.
that's literally what I
Um,
said. Did I not say that?
no,
That
that's
they would
not what you
kill them.
said. You said that
So
they would
I didn't say
stay.
earlier that they would
Okay,
kill the man and that the
let
woman
me
and children would be
let me
kept
finish.
alive.
Let me finish. You said that it was the argument was about birthright. I was explaining that American chattel slavery was completely different because it was through your birthright no matter what. So
And did
when
I
it
not
comes to
say
At
did,
Anthony
did I
with some
not say that they would kill
G9R3X
the
super
men
chatted
and that the women and children would be kept
$9.99. Both
alive,
you
but the
guys
children
make
born
great
from
points.
those
Finally,
women
a debate
would
I
be
can
made
listen to.
slaves or forced to become warriors? I didn't say that.
well, that's not what whether you said that or not. We're arguing birthright.
But if the slave, if the mother of those captured women give birth to children and those children are forced to be slaves or warriors, that's birthright,
No,
is
that
it
that
not?
wouldn't be. No,
Because
first of
they're
all,
telling her
no,
that this
no,
child is
you
our
wouldn't be.
property. and then
No, it
this
would.
child will be a slave,
Well, you asked
or
me a
we will.
question. You asked me a question. I'm trying to answer, and I mean, do you want to clarify your question? If you want to clarify your question, go ahead. I ain't trying to
Okay,
cut you
my
off, but
question.
you asked me a question, and then
Okay.
you can
All right, I'm
clarify
gonna
it
let
though.
you answer it. I'm gonna clarify it. So, is it not birthright if people in Africa are going around to a village, they kill the men, kidnap the women and children, rape the women, have children with the women, and those children are either forced to be slaves or be warriors, or they die? Is
Yeah.
that
So the
not
difference.
birthright?
So yeah. So the difference is you're arguing something that was like a war or like a tribe taking over another tribe when it comes to war, rather than people who are sold as good. Because initially, the initial conversation you stated when we first started talking. Well, not when we first started talking, but the point of the conversation you mentioned that Africans sold other Africans who were likely prisoners of war, likely people who committed crimes or what have you, and that's why they were going through what they were going through. They sold
That
the
wasn't
bottom.
always the case,
I
brother.
didn't say it was always the case.
Sometimes.
You cut me off. I didn't say it was always the case. But for the most part, for those people who were sold during when the Europeans came to West Africa, a lot of those were the have-nots, the people who those Africans really didn't care about. Can we agree to that? It's not like it was people in the upper echelon. It was the bottom of the barrel. It was the poor. It was the people who were enslaved or whatever it may be. I mean, we can agree to that. There's documentation on that.
I mean, yeah, there's
Okay,
documentation on that, but I
so
wouldn't say that they just got rid of the poor people in their countries back then. They would kidnap people too. A lot of the people they would sometimes kidnap people and hold ghost ransoms where you give us this money
I'm
or we
not,
gonna
but
ship
teacher,
you.
I'm not arguing that, bro. I'm arguing when the Europeans stepped foot on on West Africa. West African, the ones that they sold, for the most part, the ones who they
Mhm.
sold weren't the people who they really gave a fuck about. It would have been people who were prisoners of war or other people who might have been slaves in that time.
Okay, I could agree to that, but that point, the specific point that you're making, saying that,
I
oh,
have
the
another point
people.
that I'm getting to, by the way. I was just getting to you, so I wanted you to follow me, but that wasn't the ending of my point.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead if
saying
you
that
want to keep
those
going.
people, saying that Africa didn't give a fuck about those people, I wouldn't agree to that, because a lot of those people were enslaved against their will because they tribe or their force had the smallest sword, and some of them people couldn't defend themselves. So when you remember how I told you that Africa and a lot of those countries over there run on dictatorships, those dictatorships, those gangs, those like it's strength makes right over there in Africa. Like
That's
you got to
anywhere,
be on
but
the
yeah, that's anywhere.
but
Okay.
but it was predominant in Africa, especially during that time. And if you wasn't strong enough to defend yourself, you could just be a random Joe who got a family at home, and somebody could kidnap you and sell you into
Yeah,
slavery.
yeah, we not, but
Like so,
we not
it's
arguing
not.
that
It's
though. I'm not arguing that. I'm
but you
not saying that
but you
never
said
happened.
it. But you said it was people mostly who we just didn't give a fuck about. That wasn't the case. A lot of
Well, if
these
they was willing to
people,
sell them, don't you? It wouldn't be enough to where that you would want to keep them in your tribe or keep them in your land. You didn't give a fuck to
no,
send them
they
off to the Europeans.
they was worried about money though.
Sure,
Money was
sure,
king.
they were worth money. Sure, we can argue that they were worth money. They weren't worth enough. They were worth money or whatever goods or services they were able to bring to the West Africans at the time. Sure, money. Human life is never worth a dollar amount. I think we both can agree with that.
Yeah, we can agree with that, but they
Okay,
didn't
so
agree
so
with that
then,
back then.
right? Okay, then, but we're not tribal people operating in cannibalism from 400 years ago. We're in 2026, so we of course not. So the point that I'm arguing was those people didn't give enough to keep them around and keep them on the land. So they were willing to give them to the Europeans. The Europeans, with Native Americans and the Africans that got over there, they all mixed in and created a new ethnic group, whatever what it may be. But that's where slavery. That was how American chattel slavery started, and it was unique in its own right. Because when you mention tribes and going against other tribes and stuff in Africa, that was simply that. It was I'm a tribe. I'm taking over your tribe, and we gonna take over this land or whatever you have. That's completely different than the millions and millions and millions of people that was all over, not even in America, that was all over the West, where those people were brought from Africa and brought over there and they were enslaved. That is a completely different thing. And again, it was birthright for 400 years. 400 years of that. So the examples
Bro,
that you want to give about in Africa, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. It's completely different. It didn't
bro,
it wasn't a 400-year thing, and it damn sure wasn't no thing where it was race based.
so wait a minute. You just said that slavery wasn't a 400-year thing in Africa, bro. You're right. It wasn't
comparative to America. Slavery been going on for thousands of years, bro. I'm talking about comparative to how America did it.
Okay, but that's where you're missing me, bro. You really think that America was the first people, the people in the
Oh my
West?
God.
You
No.
think America was the
No, I
first
don't.
people to start the birth slavery thing, bro? So many
It
people
didn't
across
happen at the
history,
same scale that it happened in America.
bro. America was one small country compared to the world. The whole world had slaves at some
I didn't
point.
say that the whole world didn't have slaves. I didn't say
But
that.
that's where you're missing the point, brother. If the whole world had slaves at some point, you don't think that vast majority of those slaves were born into slavery? Like
No,
I
I
said
don't. I
earlier,
don't. And I asked you for proof. I don't
Africa,
think that the vast majority
Asia.
of those slaves were born in slavery. No, I don't. I think the
So
vast
you don't.
majority of those
So
slaves
I'm
were
I'm I'm
prisoners
gonna
of
go through.
war.
I'm gonna go through all the hit,
I
bro.
think the vast majority of the
But what
slaves in that
happened
time
to
were
those
prisoners of
children?
war.
What happened to those children of
They would
those
have been
prisoners of
brought into
war?
a new. They would have been brought into a new tribe, or they could have been killed.
But when they got brought into that new tribe, what
Then
often
that's
were
not
they
slavery
work?
no more. They're
They
getting in charge of a new warrior tribe. That's not
no,
slavery.
bro. If they most of those, if you were born to a slave woman, you telling me that you just gonna earn a rank in the tribe? No, you're a slave kid. You do what everybody else here tell you, or we kill you. So you're a slave too. But I'm gonna go through all the examples of history. You got the Greeks.
They had.
Who
We don't. I
you
don't. I
got?
don't. We don't need that because I'm not disagreeing with that. You
But
can name other places where they had
okay.
slaves. That's not
So
what I'm
if you're
arguing.
not
So you arguing a
disagreeing
point that
with that,
you
then that
arguing a point
means.
that I'm not arguing. All
But
I'm
once
asking, first
again,
of all, initially, what I asked you to do is prove it in a YouTube documentary. What that didn't come from an actual scholar or actually studies and things like that.
that's
That's not an
one.
argument. I can make a
That's
YouTube
one.
documentary. I can make a YouTube documentary and say that 1,000 years ago everybody
I
had
said
5
that
heads.
one source.
That's
That
not
was
a
one
source. That's a
source,
YouTube video. That's not a YouTube
bro.
video. It's not a
One
source.
source. One
A
source. I
YouTube
said you
video
can
was not a
use
source. That's not a source.
once again. One source.
This nigga is crazy.
YouTube, internet, history, countless books. That was
Let me
one.
just
I
do
said I
this.
was gonna
Let me
give you
just do
one.
this.
I said I was gonna give you one source. But back to
Hold
my
on.
point that I'm making, bro. You can't say that America was the first people to initiate the born into slavery when we can look at Greek history, we can look at Egyptian history, we can look at African history, we can look at Chinese history. All these forms of history had people born into slavery. Now, when you first get the
Still don't have
slave,
no facts on
you
that, but I got you. Go ahead.
so are you saying that people in Greek times, Egyptian times, Chinese times, all across history, none of them were born into slaves? That they had no slaves that were born into slavery. Slavery was the only thing they knew. The fucking Vikings, bro. Bro, like we can go through all that history from the Greeks, the
Those are
Vikings,
people who are
Egyptians,
those are people who are
Egyptians.
doing that to their own or doing people that's a part of their same ethnic group.
The Egyptians didn't just have slaves from their same ethnic group. The Greeks didn't just have slaves from their same ethnic group.
So then that will
Like
prove
the Mongols, the Mongols. You know who the Mongols
that
are?
will prove my
No,
point then. That will prove my point that it was completely different. How many white people were slaves in America? And don't mention indentured servants, please don't.
nobody's finna mention that.
How many
You're
white people
miss,
were slaves in America?
there were no white slaves
Okay,
in
then. So it's
America.
different. Thank you for proving my point. It's different.
How does that prove your point?
Because
How?
you just said that there were different
The white people were in
you asked the
power.
question and I'm giving you an answer. You just said that the Greeks and whatever ethnic group or country you want to use, that those people had slavery and they may have had other slaves from other people or other tribes or other countries or other ethnic groups, correct? Just yes or no. I don't need it. Yes or no.
You not giving the detail of what I said.
I just
So
gave
why
the
would I
detail of what I said. You just said
know
that other
what I
groups of
said?
people. You just said that other groups of people had slavery too, and they would have had slavery not only within their own, but they would have had slavery from other ethnic groups. Correct?
Okay, yeah, that's correct.
That's
They
literally
would
what I
have
just.
slavery.
That's literally what I just said. So hold on one second.
At Brandon V9N7T Super Chatted $2, American slavery was based on skin color.
American slavery was based on skin color. Brandon with the $2 donation, appreciate it. So I don't know if you want to respond to that. American slavery was based on skin color, which I mentioned
I
earlier, by
mean,
the way.
yeah, that was a part of American slavery, but that wasn't just
Yeah,
the
but don't you think
main.
that adds on to the uniqueness of it?
I mean, it may add on to the uniqueness of it, but if
What's
you
the
was,
but? It's either it does or it don't. What would be the but?
no, I'm saying you talking about that's like a drop in the bucket. Like if you was black, you was black. It didn't necessarily if you was a light skinned black, you was still a slave. If you was, it didn't matter what type of color you were gonna be a slave if you was black. Like there were some free blacks back then who actually had slaves, but that's besides the point. But his point about saying slavery was based on color, like no, it was just based on whether it was based on race. If you were black and didn't have your papers, you can be made a slave. Like so,
So
like
then,
the
how would you
color
know?
part.
How would you know somebody was black? Because black is a color. How would you know somebody was black?
I mean, you would look at their skin to see if they were black, but
So then it would be
so
based on. So it would be based on color.
when he said color, I'm thinking he talking about light skin, dark skin. I'm like, well, that don't make sense. But
No, he said American slavery was based on color, and the reason why people were enslaved that way have been mixed, lighter skin, they were considered mulatto, but they were still slaves because you still have that in you from their perspective. You still had the black in you, and you can see it. You
yeah,
can see the difference
that's
of
why I said
hair,
race.
and but the color, you can see the difference of hair and color. Even somebody that's biracial is not the same skin color as a white person.
I understand it. That's why I said race. It didn't matter if
Yeah,
you
but
was
race is
light
based.
skinned.
Race would be race a lot of times. Back then, it would have been based on color too.
I mean, I understand that, but
That's all.
mainly,
They was just saying that. I mean,
oh,
I'm
okay, well,
agreeing with it. You
all right, well,
disagreeing
yeah.
with it. I don't know why you giving an argument. What's the disagreement?
Oh, I mean, well, I guess there's no disagreement. But based on back to the point of what I was saying earlier, bro. You cannot say that during history that the Greeks, the Egyptians, the you talking about the Vikings, you talking about the Mongols. The Mongols was they conquered the entire continent. And you talking about the Chinamen, and you talking about African
At
people
Anthony
today.
Wilson
So I'm gonna go through
G9R3X
it once.
super
The
chatted
Greeks, the Egyptians,
$4.99.
the
Well, the
Mongols,
Hebrews would
the
selves based
Vikings,
on
the
color.
Chinamen, Africa today. All these groups had slaves, and I'm gonna focus on the Pacific ones who might have had some mixed slaves in there. The Mongols conquered the entire continent. There's no way they just conquered Chinamen. They conquered the entire continent. The Greeks, they would go to Egypt and all across the Eastern world to conquer. So a lot of the times they would have white slaves, brown
Okay,
melanated
what are you
slaves.
making this point to say? What?
No, I'm making this point to say that America was not the first group to go have birth slaves of another ethnicity or people. Like they were not the first. And
I'm
the
saying
point,
that I'm saying that it was unique because people were brought from a whole different land for absolutely no reason. They were brought from a whole different land, brought to America, and they had to endure slavery that was set for hundreds of years, and that's what
At
made it
Turner
unique.
super
Hold
chatted
on.
and my
$1.99.
Hold on, wait a
point,
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Because it's a comment to actually both of us. Hold on one second.
okay.
At Char. Super chatted $5. Both of you are wrong. There were white slaves in America. If we look at the difference in how they were treated, we can end this whole debate easily.
Well, the white slaves in America were called indentured servants. That's the difference. And they weren't white. They weren't slaves based on them being white. That's the difference. But a comment said, I'm going to read this comment to you. You want to respond to it. Both of you are wrong. There were white slaves in America. If we look at the difference in how they were treated, we can end this whole debate easily. If you want to respond to that, I can read it again if I said it too fast.
I mean, I don't know what he talking about. To my knowledge, there might not. To my knowledge, I don't remember there being any white slaves. I mean, I guess you can include debt slaves, maybe. Like
Exactly.
somebody. Yeah, I guess you can include them, but that's probably like the only
Yeah, they
like.
wasn't slaves because they were just white. You're white. I'm gonna make you a slave. People were indentured service, and that's the point that I'm making. When you were bringing up the African tribes, people were when it were their own people, It was based in because they had debt or because they committed a crime or it was because they was prisoners of war. That didn't happen over here in America. It was simply because you a
At
that's the big that's
Turner
the
super
that's
chatted
what makes American slavery unique. Hold on one
$4.99.
second.
America was the only place in history to have racial slavery, meaning if you were black and not white you were a slave, period.
America was the only place, Taji $5. America was the only place in history to have racial slavery, meaning if you were black and not white, you were a slave, period. And that's the point that I've been trying to make. That's what makes America unique. And I mentioned this earlier already.
I can agree with that specific point, but I cannot agree that American slavery is unique because there were so many examples of slavery across history that had the exact same result and exact same outcomes and the exact same procedures. When the Greeks would go
were people brought from a continent to another continent, and it was based on race?
maybe not to continent, but you have to include the fact that people weren't traveling by continents in abundance because selling on ships wasn't just
Well, then
something
that
that
would,
was going
but that
on.
would prove my point even more, Dietrich. That would prove my point even more how unique it
But
was.
let me finish. Like you can't compare like the modern American when it first started, like that slavery to the ancient history slavery, because if you ask the Greeks back then that, hey, we're gonna give you a boat where you can transport y'all slaves to China, you don't think they would have took that deal? They would have done it. They just didn't have the tech. They didn't have the
Well,
tech back
but
then.
again, that's not an argument.
But
You
they
proving my point
but
though.
let me finish. They did still transport people on the continent of the European continent, African continent, and over there near Russia. Like
And was it
there was
based on
still
race?
wasn't based on race, but they
Okay, then. So
did.
what are we
Well,
still
not not
arguing? Why are
not
we going
race.
back and forth? You
Let me
agree with
correct
me?
myself. Let me ask you:
FTH
is
Eternal Super
race
Chatted
and countrymen the same thing?
$4.99.
Because they
TF
did
is
have
wrong,
slaves
W him.
based on
How can he
Pacific
agree with
countries
my
and based on
points that
Pacific
America was the
regions.
only
So they
one
were
and then say
discriminatory
that it's
towards
not
people.
unique?
Like let's
Only
say
equals
the
unique,
Spartans
Goofy.
and the Athens.
I got you, Domino.
Like,
Hold on. Hurry up your point, bro. Hurry up. Go ahead, finish. But
oh
I
yeah,
do want to
like let's
respond
say
to some points. Go ahead.
let's say the Spartans and the Athens. If the Athens get enslaved by the Spartans, and all those Athens children are also enslaved by the Spartans, you might not can make the argument that it's racist, but it's discriminatory because, oh, we're just doing this to the Athens here. Like, so it was still discriminatory. Like, just because the discriminatory factor wasn't race doesn't make it unique because they're still discriminating. And that's why I bring up the African countries and all that, because they weren't just killing tribes and villages because, oh, this tribe owed me money or this tribe committed a crime. Sometimes there were just evil men, and the evil men back then outweighed the good men back then. And that's the thing. That's why I said might makes right.
Okay, we okay.
Back then, the evil people, and even today, they just
Goodness
have more
gracious.
power.
All right, we got you,
So
bro.
if
So, and somebody said the reason why I'm letting him go on is because everybody always say all I do is overtalk everybody. All I do is control the conversation. I never give people an opportunity to speak, even though usually the people that come on my live, they always say that I give an opportunity to speak. But for whatever reason, they say that all I do is talk over everybody and I don't give people the opportunity to speak. And I let him speak earlier for about 5 minutes uninterrupted. But that's why I'm giving him the floor more often than I usually do. So all the people saying, get him off, get him off, get him off. I'm giving him the floor because half of everybody just say all I do is speak over everybody. So I'm doing what y'all want me to do. Y'all tell me to give people the floor and stop cutting people off and letting people talk and get a perspective. So that's what I'm doing. Somebody said, and this is from the same person that made the point. The fuck is wrong with him? How can he agree with my point that America was the only one and then say that it's not unique? Only equals unique, Goofy. Yeah, I mean the whole point that I was making
because I mean,
earlier.
does he not know what a synonym is? Like, if this group is imprisoning one group because they happen to be Athens, and then this group is imprisoning them because they happen to be black. I mean, they're both imprisoning people based on one factor, a huge factor which they cannot control. You can't control the fact that you were born in Athens. You can't control the fact that you were born black. But you had people and people throughout history who literally that simple factor would determine if you was a
FTH
slave or
Eternal
not.
Super Chatted
So that's where he's missing me
$1.99.
because
Bring me up,
I
bruh.
agree with his specific point that a huge factor in American slavery was the race factor, but that's not the only thing that people use in slavery to discriminate. One's being discriminated because they were born to Athens, like Spartans imprisoned Athens and made them slaves. And if you were Athens, born to an Athens, you would be a slave. That's still a discriminatory factor that that person could not control, that they're being discriminated against and enslaved for, just like that black person. So that's why I
I'm
say, even if it lasted 400 years, you can't say that that was unique because throughout the course of
A
history,
great black
people were
shark super
enslaved
chatted
for little
$20.
factors as
Keep dropping
simple as
Pacific
where you were
facts on
born
him,
or what
ANT.
color you
Rolling on the
wore or
floor
what you look
laughing
like.
emoji.
And people
Rolling
were
on the floor
enslaved as
laughing
well for what
emoji.
they looked
Rolling on the
like
floor laughing
specifically as well.
emoji.
Like, it wasn't just It might not have been specifically race, but there were people who were made slaves just solely for what they look like.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm not following. You just going on and on. I put the link in the chat for you, Taji, if you want to come in directly. But I draw it. I don't know how you can understand this point. I just don't really get it. It's not
I,
even about like
I don't know
Republican
either,
and
bro.
Democrat. It's not about like the Union and Black America. Now it's just like we simply arguing like a simple understanding of the difference between this, and it's like you still arguing against it. I don't know how you still like. So I'm lost at this point on anything that you're saying. Because
So
we kind of
are
off the
you
rails, but
lost? So
I'm gonna let this man, because he brought it up. I'll let him speak for himself, because
okay.
I'm completely, I don't know where the fuck you going with it. I don't know. I done forgot what he even said. Taj, you got the floor if you want to speak, because you made your
Alright.
point.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm good. I sound good.
Damn, what you underwater? We can't. Your mic is some.
Hold on. Let me get it right. Give me 1 second.
I don't know. I felt a lot of understanding, bro. I don't know, man. And
So let me simplify it. So can you understand the fact
hold on
that
real quick, Ditcher. I'm gonna give you the flow. Taji, you there?
How I sound now? I
There
sound
we go.
cool?
There we go. Now,
I bet
Dietrich, you
cool.
got the floor. I'm gonna let Dietrich give his point, and
okay,
then
so I'm gonna simplify it. Now this is me saying I'm gonna simplify it. Ain't me insulting y'all intelligence. That ain't what I'm doing. I'm gonna simplify it to this. Just
come
like how
on,
you
bro.
said that it was unique to America, like the race part was unique to America. Well, my point is that even though the race part was unique to America and that it lasted 400 years, there was still very similar discriminated actions taken out on other people who were enslaved across history, whether it
At
be this
VE9Q super
person
chatted
was more attractive or
$25.
more
Thumbs up
ugly, whether
emoji.
it be this person was born in Athens instead of Sparta, whether this person was born rich or poor, there were for thousands of years people were enslaved based on discriminatory factors that they could not control, that they were born into. So the slavery history of America is not unique, in my opinion, at all, because across the world and across history, everyone did the exact same thing. The only thing that makes American slavery different is that white people didn't waste time going to go conquer anybody. They just went to the shop and brought a slave. That's the only difference. Not only that, other examples in history had shops where you can literally just go buy a slave and not have to go conquer nobody because somebody conquered them for you. And you would just go to the trade market and go buy a slave like it was candy. America just did it on a bigger scale, but literally that's like the only thing you could say that makes it slightly unique, but that's it. Like that's
Hey
it.
man, Daily Wire whooping your ass, ain't they? First of all, how can you say that America had a unique aspect to its slavery and then say that American chattel slavery is in no way different than any other slavery? If my essence is what I am, right? Like the things about me that are unique to me, right? And nobody else has them. How is my essence the same as everybody else's essence? You keep mentioning the Greeks, the Mongols, the these people, the those people. The key feature, the essential feature of American chattel slavery is the racialized aspect, meaning you are a you don't get the same rights as me, the same freedoms as me. The Constitution don't apply to you the
that's
same
what I
way.
said.
The laws don't have any application to you, nigga, until the 13th, 14th, 15th. Then we have a different conversation.
Mention that too.
Okay? That was never the case for any of the other nations that you named. Now let's just unpack what that means. If it's never the case for any other nation that we name, that their legal documents and constitutions are set up in a way that it's your skin color that prohibits you from participating in full social membership. If it's never, ever, ever any other
At on
place
code for
in the
show
history
super.
of the world that's like that, it's only one place, then that is uniqueness, brother. So you can
Said
talk about
so.
the difference. You can talk about the difference in the similarity, but the thing that separates everybody from Americans, American chattel slavery specifically, is the racialized aspect. This is scholarly work done by white people. White people will tell you this. Hannah Arendt separated race thinking from racism. And one of her examples if I'm understanding the view right, one of her examples was like, okay, what racism is the institution of policies to enforce racial thinking. No other nation had that until America. She explained that there were nations all around the world that had racial thinking. The French, for instance. And she even said that that racial thinking, where you say something bad or nasty about another race, was actually, in this conception, white people doing it against other white people. It was about class. But then what happened was people during that period of time had to, like the classical liberals, had to find a way to justify what they were doing when they thought that everybody was supposed to be made equal under God and all of these things. They had to come up with a way to dehumanize people, black people, and they used arbitrary points like skin color to do so. That is unique to American history, and any scholar will tell you that it's not disputable, brother. So this idea that you could say, talk out of both sides of your mouth, and I'll land here, this idea that you could talk out of both sides of your mouth, on one hand saying, yeah, America's the only place that like racialized slavery, but there's nothing unique about it. On the other hand, it's just a straight up contradiction that can't be reconciled. You have a dilemma that you really need to go back and work with and let that con ink go, bro. Because being a black conservative is different from being a black Republican, bro. And I understand where you're coming from, because I've never been a Democrat. But at the same time, bro, you got to be careful with how people tell you about your history. And that's all I want to say.
Okay, now I'm gonna address this point. So nobody's talking out both sides. The reason why I said that the only thing that you can point, like this is what y'all pointed out. Y'all said American slavery was unique because you had born into state slavery. You said American slavery was unique because it was based on race. You said American slavery was unique because we was picking up people from a different continent and bringing them over here. You said American slavery was unique because it lasted 400 years. And my point was, none of these make it unique in the grand scheme of slavery's history. When this is the examples I gave, you had Spartans, Athens. I can use this tribe or that tribe, where if a woman gave birth to a child in that tribe who was conquered, that child will now be a slave as well. And that child, if it was a boy, he had the choice to be a slave or a warrior. If it was a girl, she had the choice to be a slave or another baby maker. That's
Can I ask
one
you a
example.
question? Can I ask you a question?
Let me finish
Yeah.
with everything I'm saying. Then
Okay.
you can ask me a question. And then the other point, you say 400 years. 400 years is a drop in the bucket compared to how long slavery has gone on. That's something we've been doing since damn near our caveman days. And then the other point, where you say the race factor. I compare race to, in the Athens example of where, oh, the Spartans conquered the Athens, but in any person who's Athens or in the, like any of these people, just because they're a citizen of Athens, is now a slave because we've conquered this city. That's a discriminatory factor that that person cannot control. They can't control which city they were born in, and they can't control that their city was now just conquered, and now they've been born into a conquered people. People could not control that back then. I can go even further back. When you go back to the Egyptian days, where you had all them people building those pyramids, and they was getting whipped building those big old pyramids that we see today. Those people were born into slavery. They didn't have a choice. They were discriminated against. A lot of those people were Jews, not all, but a good portion of them were Jews. We can use the example of, you dirty Jew, I'm finna throw you in the oven and cook you alive. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up these examples is y'all focusing on the race factor, y'all focusing on the 400-year factor. That race factor is a synonym for what I gave the examples of people being enslaved for factors that they could not control. You cannot control that you were born in a weaker tribe. You cannot control that you were born in a city that got conquered by the bigger sword. You can't control those things. And you're talking about the education aspect of what the white people did in education. The reason why white people did the educational aspect of making people okay with slavery is because they didn't want to waste time picking up a sword and killing everybody until they submitted. That's the difference between white people slavery and all the other slavery across the world. For the most part, white people just didn't bother. They didn't go through the long route. They didn't go the long route of going to go conquer people and then go kidnap these people and bring them back. They just went to the shop. They just went to the shop, and that's
I
not
don't
all
know.
I want to
I
say.
was lost. I was lost in what Taji
Yeah,
even came up. I'm already just. I'm out of. I'm lost.
yeah. I
But
just
how y'all lost?
I just want to
Where's the
hammer. I just want to
confusion?
hammer. I just
Where's
want
the
to.
confusion?
I just want to hammer down this point that you made, right? You gave an example. I can't remember exactly which nation you were talking about, but you gave an example where someone could choose whether or not they wanted to be a slave or and the
They
alternative was
couldn't.
that they could they no
Oh, oh, oh.
as an alternative, you said that they could be a warrior. So they could be a warrior or they could be a slave. So here's another distinguishing factor. This is distinguishable from American chattel slavery. Black people did not have a choice. Well, there's some nuance to that. They could have died. They could have bought their freedom after being a slave for a very long time, or they could have been a slave, which is like they could have died or been a slave because, of course, in order to buy your freedom, you have to like be a slave first and work. So even then, in those rare cases where Black Americans will buy their freedom back, it's not like like necessarily an option for every slave, because as we know from like what cases that I'm thinking about, it doesn't even matter. I'm not gonna get in the semantics of everything,
Oh, let
but
me let me talk.
but yeah, the point that I'm trying to get you to understand, bro, is that we didn't have a choice. You were born Black, you were a slave. Period, point blank. In other nations,
Not necessarily in America.
you were my adversary, not based on skin color, but based on war. You were a prisoner of
I
war,
mentioned that.
or you owed money,
I mentioned
Not
you were a
every
debt slave.
single black person.
So tell me, bro, listen. Can you tell me a nation who said they look like this? We're going to enslave them. Tell me another nation that had that.
Well, now this is where you get your point wrong. Because one, not every black person in America back then that was born into slavery. I
That
had
was whoa,
slaves.
whoa. I'm gonna cut you off because you like to pontificate about some that don't got nothing to do with what I'm talking about. So first
I
of all,
mean,
I never
that's
They say I be over talk.
never my claim never hinged on Black people all being slaves. We all know that not all Black people were slaves. I just said that Black people could buy back their freedom.
no.
So
I'm not talking about
if
that.
Black people could buy back their freedom, then that necessarily means that not all Black people were slaves. So please
Not
don't
even
straw man
that.
me. I want
Not
you to
even
answer.
that.
I want you to answer my question directly. I'm asking you a direct question. Name me another nation since America. Let's be clear why we're asking this question, so you don't wiggle your way out of this.
I don't
Name
know.
it since American chattel slavery was not unique in any sense. I want you to name me the other nation that looked at people by their skin color alone, by racial science alone, and said, y'all don't look like us. Y'all gonna be enslaved. Y'all look like that. We don't like the way y'all look. We're gonna enslave y'all. Name me another nation that did that.
I will answer your question, but are you going to ignore the fact that there were black people in America who owned slaves back then?
A lot of black
Yes,
people were buying,
yes.
but that is
They
context
were
to that.
buying
A
back
lot
their
of black
freedom.
people were
They were
buying
buying
No,
back
back
no.
their
their
I
families.
freedom.
said, are we going to
They were
ignore the
buying back
fact
their
that a lot
families.
of black people had slaves back then? Like
But listen to the point. Listen
the
to the point.
first legal slave owner in
Oh boy.
America was a black man.
Okay, you're not. I want you to get back on Taji's point,
But I'm
but I'm
saying,
not gonna.
are
We're not
y'all
gonna
going
let
to
you run
ignore
from
that?
that. I'm trying to respond, and you keep cutting me off, dude. Come on, man. You've been doing that the entire time, and this is one of the times where people can't say.
I've been doing
I've been
that.
giving you the flow. I don't never let nobody talk this long because you be babbling. But
Gotta
you
give
gotta
it.
stop because Taji gave you the full floor, bro. I initially gave you the full floor when you came up. Just hold on, bro. A lot of people like to run with that narrative that all these they had black slavers. A lot of those people who you claim as black slavers on paper were buying back their own family members.
Yep.
So you do that a lot. We've been doing this started this conversation where you don't like to add context. The
Bro,
Republicans freed the slaves. That's not true without adding
You're
context.
making
So all that I'm
assumptions
doing,
about what I'm thinking
no, I'm not making an
another
assumption. I'm going off of what you said because you
because
speak
you didn't
very
even let me fully
vaguely.
go into
Nigga,
detail,
I responded
brother.
to you. What are you talking about? You gave the you. What do you mean?
You didn't,
this
bro.
is bad.
I've
So
been letting
the
you speak this
first,
entire time. What are you talking
the,
about? I've been giving you the floor the
bro,
entire live, dude. What are you talking about? You spoke. Who's been speaking more to the time, more to the conversation? Me or you? Who spoke more?
I've spoken, but
Okay,
when
so be
I've
quiet.
spoken,
Tasha,
bro,
you got the floor. Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, so I just wanted to say another point too. This how you know if somebody know black history or not, or at least black culture, black media. There was a figure called Chicken George who was into fashion, etc. The main thing he wanted out of life was to buy his freedom and buy his own freedom and buy his family's freedom back. So this misnomer that black people were just willy-nilly buying slaves to hold them into slavery and captivity is just nonsense. So this is very concerning, and this is very concerning, and it's not your fault. You know, I want to give you some grace and say that it's not your fault. Listen,
I'm gonna give you two
bro,
examples
I
of
don't
how
want to be
you're
cut off by
wrong.
you, bro. Like you not really add nothing fruitful to the conversation. You just repeat yourself.
You're not letting me
So
talk, man.
the issue with you is that you consume a lot of Con Inc, bro. I could tell, and because it's like Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens
history
back in
books
the
that were
day.
made before these people were born are
Bro,
Con
listen.
Inc.
So tell me what books are you reading that will tell you that scholarly that will tell you that American chattel slavery was not unique to America. Tell me.
See, now
Because
you ask all the books.
this is a think tank talking point. I'm trying to tell you for a fact. This
And
is a
I
think tank talking
understand
point.
that.
And the
But I'm
reason
gonna
why
give
I'm
you
trying to
two examples that debunks
all right,
y'all whole argument.
all right,
One,
give me two
the
examples.
first legal slave owner was a black man. Two,
Okay, bro.
that's one. Two, I had slave owners in my family, in
You
my
talking about
family
bro?
history.
Hold on one
In
second.
my family history. I was surprised by this myself. Literally had black family members in my family tree when I went to my family reunion who were showing that my family at some
I
point
asked you for a
owned,
book, brother. I asked you for a book. You see how I'm gonna show you how
because
serious. Oh, wait. I'm gonna show you how.
y'all was skipping
I'm
over
gonna
the
show you how
point that I
serious I take
made.
this shit. I'm gonna show you how serious I take this. I really banged my ancestors, bro. This is just a quick turnaround, right? A quick turnaround from Without Sanctuary, where they put my ancestors on
So
postcards.
was
They
the
put my
first
ancestors
legal
on
slave owner a
postcards
black
and
man?
ate
Yes or no?
popcorn and watch my
Was
ancestors
the
hang.
first legal
Look
slave
at this
owner
black
black or
woman
not?
hanging. Look, we not jacking that
So
con
was
ink.
the first
You
legal
keep talking
slave
about
owner in America black or not?
listen, brother. Listen, brother. You're getting me out my body because you don't listen. I'm trying to help you. Look, you could be conservative without
So you're not
following the
gonna answer that
Republican
question.
Party. I'm not gonna answer the question because it's irrelevant. What I'm trying to explain to you is that your worldview
Bro,
is constructed by think tanks, by
if
money, bro, by
American
capitalism.
slavery
You
was
need to
so
slow down,
focused
bro. You
on
need to slow
racism,
down, bro. Bro, I don't believe that America is inherently racist. I don't believe any of those things. But I'm telling you that you have this, bro, in your efforts to be anti-racist, you're being anti-black. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because your arguments are rooted in color blindness. No color blindness. You're trying to equalize the playing field when you don't need to do that. Dr. Thomas Sowell, right? One of the greatest black conservative thinkers, right? A conflict of visions. What we can learn from Dr. Thomas Sowell is that the question is not whether racism happened. The question is to what effect it had on black Americans today. And also it's like just because we can't do everything don't mean we shouldn't do anything, but we should make sure that our facts are correct when we're trying to make decisions for others. And more importantly, he talked about what equity looks like and what fairness and justice looks like when you have a constrained vision. What I mean is that where we are is that, like, okay, if two people run a race and they run at the same and all the conditions of the race is the same. They, like, there was no cheats, there was no extra going on. They both ran, and the same person won 50 times. Every time they won. That's not discrimination. That's not a disparity. That person could just be physically gifted. They might have trained hard or whatever. But when you cut a person's leg off and expect them to run at the same speed, this is Dr. Thomas Sowell, by the way, not me. But if you cut the person's leg off and expect them to run at the same speed, then that's when it becomes problematic. That's when fairness is in question. And so in this country, we went through American chattel slavery, which was specifically designed based on skin color. We went through Jim Crow after the fact. Actually, no, we went through sharecropping after the fact. Then we went through Jim Crow after the fact. Then we went through the war on poverty. Then the Green Deal and all of that when we first started voting Democrat. Then we went through the war on poverty, the civil rights movement, all of this shit. that set us back years and years and years. The war on drugs, etc. We went through all of these different things, and you're gonna sit here and tell me that we haven't experienced any structural violence just because you vote Republican? You don't need to vote Republican to understand
I
that.
never
Like, you don't need to
said
vote Democrat to understand that. This is basic human dignity and rights. We deserve the same human dignity and rights as anybody else. And the last thing I want to say about this is, when you take away our victimhood, when you downplay it, like, oh, everybody had slaves, it wasn't unique to black people, etc., etc., you actually dehumanize black people, because everybody in the world has been victimized or been victim to something. The tragedy is that man was born a child. That's the truth. So to tell me that I'm less of a victim in my slavery, what happened to my ancestors is the same as what happened to the Greeks, the same as what happened to the French. No, that's not true. Frantz Fanon and Black Skin White Mask will literally tell you that what happened to the Black Americans and the way we fought ourselves out, not white people handing us nothing. The way we fought ourselves out makes us as a people group distinct from the French. He literally said that. So when you sit here and say that, oh, Republicans just freed the slaves, it's like, no, no, because if that's the case, then why is it that every scholar that really talks about black issues from an objective point of view, at least as objective as they can be given the circumstance, especially if they're black, make a distinction that black Americans fought for our freedom, whereas in the case of the French, for example, they were handed their freedom, and that's why they have an arrested development, and they need to actually go back to the struggle to the death. But we struggled enough. This is Frantz Fanon. So when we talk about sources and books and literature, you can't hit me with no talking point that Candace Owens said, that Ben Shapiro said, that Matt Walsh said, because they don't talk to scholars, they talk to children, and that's what you sound like right now. You sound like a child.
You gave out those names.
Real quick, y'all.
You
Real
gave out
quick.
those
I
names.
want to do a quick fact check. I want to do a quick fact check. Shout out to my OGs. I want to do a quick fact check real quick, because you said that Anthony Joshua was the first slave owner in America. Was he black? I guess that's not true.
First legal slave owner.
He wasn't. He came over. I that's what I have. If you would give me opportunity to respond to you, that's not true. Slavery was already happening in America before he got over here. When he got over here, he was a slave owner, but it was completely different from the start of it. He was not the first slave owner. Slavery was already going on in America before he got here.
I never said that it was.
If you just said he was the first slave owner, you just said he was the first slave owner.
Legal. He was the first legal slave owner.
There's no paperwork on that. There's no paperwork.
Yes, it is. I can quote it to you right now. He was the first legal slave owner recognized in court.
He wasn't.
Bro. Anybody watching can literally Google this right now. He was
literally
the first
said it, bro. The thing that I got sent and what I looked up, it says there is no documented first slave owner in America because most of the slave owners were privateers. So there was no thing to say that you could or could not do. It was private owners, it was privateers, and there was hundreds and hundreds and thousands of slaves that was already out all within America. There was no documentation on it. So there would be no way to quantify what was the first one. That's impossible to do.
I said the first legal one. Legal.
Yeah, but there was no way. But again, there was no basis on it to begin with. He wasn't the first slave owner. He just wasn't.
I never said he was, man. I said who was the first legal slave owner?
When you initially started speaking, you never even said legal. We can rewind it back. You said who was the first slave owner black. That's what you said.
If somebody is recognized as the first legal owner of something, that means on paper, you saying records and all that, on court documents, on paper.
That's like saying the first person to murder somebody was this person because he got convicted for it. Like murder ain't been going on for thousands of years. Who was the first person to admit? Like that's not a point, bro. That's not an argument.
Because you're not even listening to the argument.
I am listening to the argument. You're trying to make a legal documentation paper, but it wasn't even true. It wasn't even true.
Can I finish the argument? So you're saying right now it is not true that man was not the first legal slave owner in America.
Someone sent me some sources, and I went and looked it up myself, and it seems accurate. And you didn't say legal at first. You say he was. You asked both of us, was he not the first black slave owner?
That's my fault. If I didn't say legal, I will own it. But he was the first legal slave owner in America. He was a black man. So
that's not what I see. Can you show us? Can you show us your sources since you brought it up?
How I show you what I'm looking at on my phone?
I mean, you could just you should be able to.
Brother man, do you understand how we classify him as the?
I want to read this real quick,
ahead.
Taji, and then you got it. From what I see, it says no one knows for certain, and I've looked this up myself. Somebody sent me something, but I looked it up myself. I looked it up on Google and ChatGPT. It says no one knows for certain there is no document first illegal slave owner. People often confuse this with Anthony Johnson, but the historical record does not support calling him the first legal slave owner. What we do know is in 1619, Africans arrived in Virginia, but Virginia has not enacted a comprehensive legal slave code establishing hereditary chattel slavery. During the 1600s, colonial courts and legislators gradually transformed African servitude into racial hereditary slavery throughout a series of court decisions and statutes.
And I have it here. It says, here, actually, I think I can share it. Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna try to share it.
Shout out to the person who sent me this too, because if I'm ignorant to something, I don't mind saying I'm ignorant to something. And I wanted to, and they sent me that, and I'm like, yeah, that do sound kind of weird. And I looked it up, and yeah, that's not factual.
I mean, I'm looking at it right now on paper, bro. Like I'm on my phone and I can literally read it in the English speaking North American.
All right, here we go. I got it pulled up. It say right here. Did you know that a black man, Anthony Johnson, won a court case in Northampton County Court in 1655 to keep his slave John Kaser, and the ruling became the first legal sanction of American slavery. So this is context, okay? First of all, Kaser claimed that he was an indentured servant and not purchased as a slave, as Johnson claimed. First of all, so context matters. All right, so he laughing like he won something.
Because that's what I said.
That's not what you said, bro. You never said that at one time. And by the way, too, I don't want to make this a 2v1. I don't want to make this a 2v1. It's not. I'm not trying to do that. It's not a 2v1. But I'm just bringing facts behind what you said. And what he just read off and what I see, he was not the first legal slave owner, bro. He just was not.
He was the first person. He was the first person to go to court to try to keep a slave. That's not the same as and then the person
slave owner,
yeah, it's not the same as being the first legal slave owner, bro. Like, what are you talking about? So context matters. So again, this is these Dom Luker talking points, these Alex Jones talking points, and we heard this already, bro.
He was the first person in America to legally prove. Once again, he was the first person in America.
So now you moving the goalposts? Wait, he was the first.
Hold
person
on, let him finish it, Taji. Let him finish it, because he building himself a hole, because this is the third time he would have moved the quote. Now you're saying he was the first person in America. I mean, it's recorded, bro. We can play it back. But you said he was the first person in America to do what? No.
Tell you what y'all was doing.
Hold on. Damn, shut the fuck up. Go back to the point that you just made. I just told him to stop talking and let you go. If you would shut the fuck up, we'd be able to listen. We'd be able to listen to you. I'm giving you the floor. Shut the fuck up and let I'm giving you the floor. Be quiet. It's my live. I just told you I'm not trying to make it a 2v1 to go against you. I'm giving you your space. Just shut the fuck up. So hold on. So back to what I was saying, because Taji cut you off and I just told Taji to be quiet and let you go. So I'm giving you the opportunity to go. I'm telling him to be quiet. Let your ass go. Now go ahead. Gotta talk to you like a broad. Go ahead.
Because you a bitch, but okay.
Bro, let's not do that. Don't even do that. Because
you
don't even
do that.
I'm running my live and I'm telling you to be quiet. And clearly the regular way is not working. You've been speaking more than me and more than Taji. I've been quiet for 10 minutes giving Taji the floor because Taji made a statement towards you. So I'm giving you the opportunity to go against him because he made a statement towards you. That's the reason why Taji's up here. I just told Taji to be quiet and give you the floor, but you cut me off because I was centering back the conversation of what it was to tell Taji to listen and to what you were saying. But clearly, me being cool and calm and cordial, not cutting it. So I got to tell you to shut the fuck up so you can get it. Because I have a very low patience for I've been giving you the floor. You've been speaking more than anybody, my nigga. Because unbeknownst to me, everybody say all I do is cut everybody off and I always talk over everybody. So I've been shutting the fuck up. I know how to shut the fuck up. So I'm telling you to do that because clearly you don't know how to listen, my nigga. But don't call me a bitch because I ain't call you out your name. I said shut the fuck up. Don't call me no bitch, though, my nigga, because they don't got to get that because you don't want it to go there. So then calm all that extra, all that shit down, man. Don't even do all that. Don't even do all that because you don't know me. Don't call no bitch on this internet shit. Don't get this shit twisted. We having a conversation as men. But if I gotta say shut the fuck up, I might have to. If you don't like shut the fuck up, then you could have been like, hey, bro, don't do that. I'll be quiet. Cool, but don't call me no bitch.
I wasn't worried about that. You called me
but I'm saying, don't say no. I ain't call you a broad. I said I gotta speak to you like a broad. And clearly I do. So calm all that extra shit down, my nigga. Because all that calling niggas a bitch and shit. If we was in the room, you wouldn't even be doing all that. So don't even play like that.
Sure, pal. Sure.
No, I know. So we gonna keep this shit calm and cool and collected, my nigga. I ain't one of them, nigga. I'm from Cleveland. Now go ahead and get the flow.
Okay. like I was saying before.
You talking about?
Y'all talking about I'm moving the goalposts and all this other thing, but this is what y'all keep doing in this whole conversation. I give a point to something. The point is correct, but because I didn't add XYZ to the point, oh, I'm manipulating the information. Brother, if he's on paper as the first legal person in America as a recognized slave owner in court, that's still the point. Just because I didn't add on to the fact that one of his slaves tried to break their contract, that does not matter. He it still proves that I was right when I said that the first legally recognized slave owner in America was a black man. Now, if I didn't say legally recognized or legal slave owner in America, that is my fault. But at the same time, you cannot dismiss the fact that y'all keep focusing in on that race factor with American slavery, but there were black slave owners. A black man was able to go to court to keep his slaves. My ancestors in America, I literally had a whole documentary put in front of me at my family reunion. They had 8 slaves, and they were black as dirt, and they had 8
Well,
slaves.
maybe that's why you think how you think, because your people
And
used to
not
own
only,
them.
Bro,
bro, you
Maybe
talking
that's
this
about
it.
shit bad,
you
bro.
talking about 3 generations ago. Not only that, Native Americans had slaves. So y'all keep focusing on race
So you
when
telling
black
me,
people.
bro, why? Tell me why slavery was instituted in America. Like, what was the legal justification? How did they institute slavery? Tell me how it happened.
They literally just went over there and started buying people and brought them back to work the farms, work the crops. Like as far as the documentation and all that, I couldn't give you the answer, but I can
Wait,
give you the
so
simplified
why so
version.
why so why I don't know if I want to go Thomas not Thomas so Booker T. Washington or Hannah Arendt, because like the scholars disagree with you. Booker T. Washington's personal testimony explained in the first chapter, the first pages of the book, he explained that it was racialized. He explained that because slavery was racialized, he had to figure out how to make it in this world as a black man. That's the whole premise of Up From Slavery. He talked about how the Moroccan got treated better than him as a black American, even though they had the same shade. And the same thing with the Native American.
See, now
This
you
is
going to
this is
discrimination.
no. I'm telling you that the policies in America were racial policies. They
I
they
never
they
said they
they
were.
they so if they were racial policies and slavery was also a policy, like instituted via policy, legalized. You know what legalized means? Statutory. You know what that means? Constitutional. Do you know what that means? That's legalized, right? Instituted through policy. Then why are you trying to make a special pleading that like American chattel slavery had little to do with race? Why are you doing that?
Because if race was the predominant factor of the slave trade in America and the main motivation, like basically what the image that you're painting is that these white people saying that, oh man, we gotta go to Africa specifically to get these. They would have took slaves from China if they sold them to them. They would have took slaves from East Africa or Indies. They would have took slaves from whoever would have sold them slaves back then. But their prominent market was Africa because that was just the easiest place and the quickest place to get to buy slaves. And you can't say that race was the sole factor of American slavery when the first person to go to court for slavery and win the court case was a black man. And not only that, they at no point in slavery in America did they say it's illegal for a black person to have slaves.
So,
It's illegal
so
for a
Dietrich.
Native American to have
So,
slaves.
so,
If
so
Native
Dietrich.
Americans and blacks had slaves in America during that time frame of 400 years, you can't then make
So,
the argument that it was predominantly
you
race. They were just getting
Bro,
the
they
easiest people they
literally
could
so,
get.
had
so,
this is
so
a white
Dietrich.
this is
So
oh
Dietrich,
go ahead, go ahead.
real quick, Taji. So Dietrich, and again, I didn't know, so I'm not trying to act like I'm some scholar and I know everything because I damn sure don't know every motherfucking thing. But somebody sent me something else. It says that the first earliest documented slave owner in America was Hugh Gwynn in 1640. The whole Anthony Johnson situation didn't come until 1655. So this was 15 years after the Hugh Gwynn situation. So you would be factually incorrect.
Yep.
But now, if you want to tell me that I'm wrong, I don't mind you telling me that I'm wrong. But you will have to show me some documentation, because from what I see, Hugh Gwynn, 1940, this is the earliest documented case. John Punch, an African servant, ran away with 2 European servants. The Virginia court sentenced John Punch to serve Hugh Gwynn for life, while the 2 Europeans received only additional years of service, which kind of proves the point that it was different. If you're looking for the first documented person who legally held someone in lifelong servitude, Hugh Gwynn is the earliest known example. Anthony Johnson didn't come until 1615. So and I'll tell you, somebody told me to look up Hugh Gwynn to my phone. I went and looked it up. That's what it says. So again,
I didn't
I'm
know
no
about Hugh
scholar, but
Gwynn.
that's what it says.
Wait. But also too, it's like, so I have here, this is a white scholar. The chapter in this book, Origins of Totalitarianism, is this is the Race Thinking Before Racism chapter, to page 201. In my edition, this is the Mariner Classic. I like to give sites. I like pictures with my stories. So she says here that imperialism would have necessitated the invention of racism as the only possible explanation and excuse for its deeds, even if no race thinking had ever existed in the civilized world. Okay. Now, what does this mean? What is she trying to tell us? She's trying to tell us that yes, they were going and collecting people from around the world and imperializing, and they had race thinking. They thought lesser of the Africans, but they weren't necessarily being racist. And this is also a controversial point that she's making. But they had to institute racism, basically meaning like they had to like make it about a person's genetics, about a person's phenotypical features, or about some aspect of a person's character to justify what it was that they were doing, or else they wouldn't have been able to keep doing it. So that means that yes, while they collected people from around the world without much thought to like the color of their skin, they when they landed them in this land and the Constitution said we the people, they had to kind of make a special pleading to say that black people were less human than white people. And they had to create whole doctrines and racial science to explain that point. And this is why Charles Mills says that the racial contract is we the white people, not we the people. That's why he says that. I don't fully agree with that, but my point here is that the mainline scholarship, or at least the scholarship that I know in philosophy of race, is they whether they're on the left or the right, they all acknowledge that slavery in America was racialized. They might disagree with why it was racialized, but there is no question at all whether slavery in America was racialized. So your point about, Anthony Johnson and all of these things, you're taking a legal case where a person like was smart enough to try to sue somebody on a legal ground for some shit. So now he gets like documented from a legal perspective as the first something, doesn't make him the actual first something. That's why Ant said if I got to be convicted of murder or be recognized as a murderer to be a murderer. Like this, if I'm not, so the first person who was recognized for unlawfully killing somebody is the first murderer. No, that's not true. People murder people and get off from it all the time. So I don't understand what the motive is, right? That's really what I'm getting into talking to another black person. You say you FBA, you might not use the title, but you say that you're from Mississippi and your family's lineage started from 1865 on forward. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to talk to you to get you out of the sunken place, brother, because I'm conservative too. I'm the most conservative man on YouTube. I say that all the time, but I'm not. But I'm not gonna let anybody dehumanize me as a black person or tell me about my history when I know better. When I can go read the black people, the white people, the Chinese people, the whoever people, and they all say the same thing about one thing, which is that slavery in America was unique because it was racialized. Alain.
Okay.
Before you go, Dietrich, real quick, are you gonna concede the fact that you was incorrect on that point, or are you still gonna say that he was the first, even though it says that this
I conceded. I didn't know about Hugh.
Respect. I can respect you for that. For conceding. All good. Go ahead.
So the reason why I brought up Anthony Johnson is because you said that just for being born black in America that made you a slave. I was attacking that point and the race point specifically. That race, not saying it was non-existent in America, not saying that's what made, to me, slavery in America is not made unique by the race factor. The reason, because it's just like
in the US, though. He wasn't born in the US.
Okay, if he wasn't born in the US, that's fine.
He
but
came from Africa. He wasn't born in the US.
Also, federalism, man. You gotta think about federalism, brother. So do you know what federalism is?
Well, I
No,
do.
but
I want
Kyle
him to give his. I
finish?
want him to give his
I
rebuttal.
Yeah.
bet.
Hold that point,
Bet.
Taji, because I do want to give
Yep.
his rebuttal. I only responded to you, Dietrich, because you said that the thing was about being born. Anthony Johnson wasn't born in America. He
He was
wasn't.
Angolan.
He was Angolan. He wasn't born in America.
Okay, he wasn't born in America, but even black people who were born in America, there were some who were just born free man because there were black people that migrated to America and they had children. Like that's how the slave trade even happened. So when I say that just back then,
Yeah.
just because you were born black did not make you a slave. If you were born black on a plantation, you're a slave. But if you were born black to a free family, you were free. And you actually had the right to go purchase slaves of
And
your own.
some of those people were
All right.
kidnapped. Some of those people were taken over. Some of those people were killed. But yeah, some of those people were
Mhm.
kidnapped and taken as slaves as well.
Yep.
I will admit that as well. There were
So
some free black men
So
who were
all
kidnapped.
so
I'll
all
give
I'm
you that.
doing so all I'm doing is adding context to the situation.
Yeah.
So when you say it
And no,
ain't just about you being born, well, okay, but context matters as well. When you mention like, well, some people were free, yeah, but some of those people were kidnapped. Some of those
yeah,
people were ripped from their families simply because, oh no, you over here now, and that's
they
how that
weren't
goes.
afforded citizenship
Right.
as United States citizens, and that's a fact. And also, even a even deeper context is federalism. I wrote it down here so I remember. So, do you understand federalism?
No, you can explain to me.
So how you gonna have this conversation and not know what federalism is? So federalism is the okay, we have a centralized government, but we have states' rights. That's a simple way to explain it. I mean, we can
Oh
get into
yeah.
more technicalities about that, but that's what federalism is. So what that means is that states govern themselves under the authority of our like central document, which is the U.S. Constitution, the federal
Yeah.
Constitution, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
so when you say not all black people were like who were born in America were necessarily slaves, that's because of federalism. That's because some states didn't have legal chattel slavery. That's why. So even that, and then it still doesn't bear on the fact that racial slavery was legal in certain states. It's just that federalism separated it, right? You got the northern and southern, I know you know that, 'cause I heard you talking about it. So why then? So you bring it up when it's beneficial for you, but when the principle that we're operating on doesn't benefit your point, you ignore the same facts that you use to build your case. So this speaks to motive to me, because it's like, okay, you understand that there was a difference between different states and different states' rights and different laws and all the things, but when it's convenient for you, you leave it out when you say things like, oh yeah, well, yeah, you can't say that slavery was racialized because not every black person in America was born a slave. It's like, all right, bro. So I don't get it, bro, but I can only recommend you to read more. That's it.
So you just helped prove my point. If you had states that had it to where there weren't any race-based slavery or whatever, and then you had states to where they were race-based slavery, but let me ask you this: in those race-based slavery states, did any of those states at any point put down on law that if you're a black person, you cannot own a slave? And that's something you need to mention.
How
If
would a
none of
black
those,
person, brother, let me ask you a question. How would a black person have owned a slave in the South?
I mean, money is king. Like if you had
Money
the
is king,
money, you
bro.
just buy
Oh
them.
my
Like,
goodness, bro. This nigga, bro.
and
Hey, man.
we hold on.
God bless you,
Talked
bro.
about we just
I
talked
can't
about
do it no
Anthony
more, man. I'm losing
Johnson.
patience, man.
But so we gonna forget about
Anthony
Anthony
Johnson was
Johnson.
in Virginia, brother.
But once
Like
again, you talking
is
about this
Virginia is
16,
Virginia the
16.
Midwest? Is Virginia the Midwest or is Virginia the South?
Once again, you talking about 1654
Huh.
though, bro.
Huh. Okay. So what are you talking about, bro? These
But give me an example of a South state that said if you were black, you could not legally own a slave. Because I'm
bro,
literally telling you that my
bro.
ancestors, my family owned 8 of them, and they was in Mississippi.
Why? So you telling me your
I mean, I can
ancestors
look.
was
I
just
don't know. I can look it up. I can look it
your
up right quick.
Yeah,
ancestors
like
wait,
how,
hold on. So you telling me your ancestors just like wanted to like own slaves? They wanted to own their own people?
yeah, they had 8
So
of them.
okay, yeah, I don't believe that. I hate to be that type of because I'm never
You
like
don't
this.
gotta
You can
believe
ask
it,
Ant. You can
but
ask Ant. I'm
bro,
never like this, but I gotta strip your FBA card away, bro. You telling me that you are up. Your ancestors was like, oh yeah, fuck these, like enslave them. Like make
So
them
you,
make
so
them
you
work
just
for
gonna,
free.
bro? You acting
Like
like
that's
black people
sad,
didn't
bro. Like
own
you
black
think that
people.
shit cute. You think that shit cute. What we telling you is
How?
that the
Why
majority
are you
of black
projecting that
what
onto
we
me?
what we telling you
Nobody
is that the
thinks they're
majority of
cute.
black what we telling you is that the majority of black people who own slaves were buying back their families because they were separated on the fucking stock
I'm
exchange, nigga.
literally giving
The
you
fuck is
an
you talking about?
example of me. They weren't buying back their families. They just had workers. They just had
Yeah,
head workers.
Hold on,
and
real
that's
quick. Hold on.
And
advancement.
I know my family's not unique. I'm
Hold on.
one regular person. You saying
Hold
my
on,
family's unique?
wait. I got you, Dietrich. Reel to Cleveland back in real quick, Taji. Reel to Cleveland back in. Hold on.
What's
Just
up,
real
man?
to I had to do it too. Real to Cleveland back in. Now let me. I do want to answer your question, Dietrich. You said because again I don't know, and I'm okay with saying I don't know. I'm not too prideful to say that I don't know something. I didn't know, but I looked it up. You said were there policies and laws or were there things that were hindering black people from owning slaves? No, but there's context because something about you, it don't seem like you like that context much. There were laws that severely restricted the rights of free black people, making it harder for them to own property, testify in court, vote, travel, bear arms, or remain in the state. So, were there any policies to say that you guys can't own slaves? No, there was no policy to enact that. But again, they weren't allowed to even. It's not like the red carpet was just laid out for them. There were so many other things that barred them from even getting to that point because to own slaves, well, guess what? You got to have money. You probably got to have some land. You probably got to have connections around. That wasn't available to these free black Americans. It just wasn't a thing.
And then another thing
So
too.
context matters. That's all.
Another thing too, like, bro, we had literal, they call black codes, bro. It was illegal to pick cotton after dark. This was a fake statute that they made to literally go round up for no reason after got free. So you telling me I need to rely on the law to tell me what was socially acceptable? No, I don't even have to do that today. I don't even have to do that today. So it's ridiculous for you to make these special pleadings, bro. There's one-off cases of the minority of people who so happen to rig the system somehow or come from another country with money and fucking purchase some black people. Like that's and then wear that shit proudly, fucking puffing your titties out, talking about my family, they own niggas. Like, bro, read the room, bro.
Nobody's
That shit not
proud of
cute.
that.
That shit not cute,
Why?
bro. That's all I
But
got to say, bro.
why you think I'm projecting proudness? It's proving a point. My family is not unique. I'm one individual. Are you gonna sit here and tell me that my family, my regular ass family in Mississippi, was the
Bro,
only
the
family in
No,
Mississippi
your
who
the
was
family
exception
black,
would.
don't
No,
make the
your
who
family
rule,
would be
bro.
owned
unique
slaves?
though. Your family
The
would be
exception
unique though,
don't
for
make the
sure.
rule, bro.
So are you really gonna just sit here and make the argument that somehow I got
Majority,
my great grandparents were the only people who
No,
had
Dietrich.
slaves?
No, Dietrich.
no, the argument is
No.
that
That's not what nobody's saying.
the majority of black people in this country were enslaved.
Nobody's
That's the
arguing.
argument.
But
Okay, so then
Nobody
shut
It's
the
like
speaking.
fuck
Dietrich.
up.
No, reason why I'm not
Hold
gonna
on.
shut the fuck up is
Dietrich.
because you can
Dietrich,
talk.
no, nobody's saying that your family was the only family. All that I tried to do for initially was first of all add context because just because on paper it says that this black person owned this other black person, a lot of people were buying again. A lot of people were buying their families out of slavery. Do you agree with that? Do you
I don't disagree with that.
Okay, cool.
I
So that's
don't
the first
disagree with
part.
that.
A lot of people are buying their families back out of slavery, and then the point to say that, and it's a lot. Sometimes it wasn't even their family. It could have just been other black people that they cared about. It wasn't like it was the same way that it would be some white Southern Christian Bible thumping slave owner doing the same thing to a black person that another black slave owner would necessarily do. That's not the same thing at all. So, but even still, if you want to make the argument that there were some black slave owners, sure, nobody's disagreeing with that. Your family owned slaves. Hey, I don't know. That maybe where the disagreement come in is some ancestral difference. I don't know what it is, but the point that anybody, the point, at least the point that I'm making is, it's not the fact that like that just means that it didn't happen in other places. Of course it did, but that's not the majority. So you trying to say, if I make an argument and I say men tend to be taller than women, and then you say
said that was
no,
majority, brother.
but you're saying that we or Taji or me is trying to say that it didn't happen with other families. Nobody disagree with that. If I say that men tend to be taller than women, and then you say, well, no, because My grandma's 6'4". She's taller than most men. That doesn't take away from the fact that the majority consensus still rules that men tend to be taller than women. So you bringing up an anecdotal point, even though you may have 50 different points that are anecdotal, but those 50 different points that are anecdotal still do not take over the majority consensus of the generalization of the majority of black people that were enslaved were not slave owners themselves, and the majority of black people that were enslaved were not enslaved by other black people. They were enslaved by white Southerners. That's a fact.
I never argued against that. That's where y'all missing me.
So
Dietrich
why did
never
you?
argued against any of that.
So why
Well,
do
I
you
am
keep bringing that
arguing.
we're trying to say that you're unique, or not unique? We're trying to say that it didn't happen in other cases. Somebody disagree with it.
What I am arguing is that when he said that what made American slavery unique was the race factor, the kidnapping people from a different continent factor. Because I'm still on that. I'm on the point of
That never came out
y'all.
my mouth. That never came
No,
out my mouth.
I'm talking about him. I ain't talking about you.
You agreed to
I'm
that
on the
initially,
point.
though. You agreed to it. You agreed to that because Taji initially brought the point in the comments, but you agreed to. Well, I actually brought it up before Taji, but Taji brought it back up, and you agreed to it. You said, "Yeah, that made it unique," and then you went to this. But I mean, it wasn't really. You said it was a drop in a bucket or whatever you said. You tried to say that it wasn't that serious, so that's why Taji was like, "No, let me come up because that's some BS."
Because the main motivation for them getting slaves from Africa was the travel distance, the price, the abundance. You didn't have to go hunt these people down yourselves. You had people in Africa that would go get them and sell them to the white man.
Brother,
This was the easiest, simple way
that's
for them
only
to
half the
acquire slaves.
story. If I believe that if I believe in inalienable rights, meaning rights given from God, then how can I
And I finished what
justify?
I was finna say.
Finish what you said. Finish what you saying.
The only reason
But don't
that
be
they
long with it.
predominantly got slaves from Africa was for those reasons I listed. You talking about these people on boats for months, dealing with scurvy and all kinds of things. Africa was the easiest accessible space. Not only that, they had the cheapest labor that they could buy. Then they didn't have to go hunt these people down themselves. They could just go to the African market and they had brothers selling brothers. If you had the Mexican people back in Mexico selling slaves to America, you think America would have just said, no, we don't want the Mexicans? They would have took them too. It would have saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars back then if they could just get slaves from Mexico. The reason why I'm saying American
Are you
slavers.
just real quick? Are you making it if they would have did it, they would have did it too argument? So that's like saying like if
No,
you
no,
was to still
I'm making an argument that
go ahead.
if white people could buy Mexicans back then from Mexico, they would have done it. That's what I'm
But you're
arguing. Not the
making a
Mexicans.
what? But again, that's a if it would have happened. This argument is not a if it would have, could have, should have
Okay,
happened. We're just
but I'm
arguing
saying,
exactly
And
what
so,
happened. That's not a. That don't
but
really
I'm
make a lot
can
of
I
saying
sense.
chime in?
because
Can I chime
it
in?
would have been cheaper for them to do it from Mexico.
Okay,
So I
so
was
you're
just
so
giving you
I
an
you're
don't.
so
example.
this
So
shit
I
be
be
about
yeah.
to make me like anti-capitalist, bro. And I'm not that type. But when I hear this type of shit, because you saying the only reason, right? That is the only reason that black people were taken from Africa is because it was convenient. And that
Yeah,
okay, yeah. And I'm telling you that that's only half the story according to white people, dumb mother. If
sure.
if okay, so who are the main thinkers in the in like the period where classical liberalism was the main thing that people believed? Who are the main thinkers during that time? Who during the period of enlightenment, who were the United States founders really inspired by? What philosophers did they like? One of them was John Locke. He was a big one. He's even in the preamble to the Constitution, I believe. So John Locke. Well, it's like it's sort of similar. So I don't want to overstate that. But what I'm trying to say is that John Locke believed in inalienable rights, meaning rights given from God. Right? How could you take another person from another country and treat them lesser, institute bigotry, make them work for free, and violate their rights, etc., and then say that you look at them the same way you look at other human beings that were made in the image of God? How can you say that? You can't say it. So this is why people like Hannah Arendt explain to you, to dumb like you, that if
But slavery
so
been
long
going around 1,000 years.
so long as imperialism happened, brother, racism would have been instituted. That means that the justification for what they were doing was racist. They used race as a
Are you
reason to do it,
serious? Are you
bro.
serious, dude?
Bro, this is
If that was the case,
mainline scholarship,
if that
nigga.
was the case, Why did we have slavery for thousands of years? You dummy.
The
Why
slavery
would we
wasn't
have
based.
slavery for thousands of years?
It wasn't because the history of philosophy tells us that people didn't look at it. Wasn't the same kind of slavery. They wasn't looking at what they was doing the same way. People expounded upon their worldviews and realized, especially with like the Christian crusades and all that shit, for all the bad it did, the good thing that it did was show these crazy motherfuckers that people were made in the image of God. People were made by nature equal, and that no man by his nature was better than another man. And so that evolution of the thinking of people resulted in the understanding that slavery was immoral. And once that understanding was brought in, they had to make a special pleading if they wanted to keep their principles. You can't tell me that I'm made in the image of God and then also in the same breath tell me that that I'm, because of where I'm from or because of what I look like, that I'm gonna like that I gotta be a slave. Come
Okay,
on, bro.
I get the point you're
Come
making.
on now, brother.
And I addressed this point like an hour ago. I said the only difference between white people and the rest of history when it comes to slavery, white people didn't waste time going to conquer villages. White people didn't waste time trying to force their native population to be okay with it through physical means. They used the books. I
What are you
said just
talking
like,
about? White people came to this country where it was natives already here and forced
can
them
I can I
by
can I
their
finish?
fists. What are
Can
you
I
talking about?
finish what I'm saying? I'm talking about slavery and the acceptance of slavery, just like how you just pointed out. I addressed this over an hour ago where I said that white people just went the easy, nice, convenient way about selling slavery to their people and just getting slaves. They went the easy way getting slaves by just going to the market in abundance to buy them. They
Did
went the easy way with their
did they tell you
Is that
civilians.
that?
okay? Is that
Did
okay?
they tell you that?
Who?
I'm just
What are you
curious
talking
on
about?
like where is this like justification coming from as far as
Bro,
like how you would
you
know the mentality of the people back then. Like where's the
no,
it's like
you got
it's like you justifying. How do you like how would you even know that?
Can I finish what I'm saying? And I'll give you the context of how I
Yeah,
know
but you
this.
do be
You talking
very
about
very
sick?
long very long winded. But go ahead, just try to condense it down
That's
a little bit,
that's how I give you the detail, but I will sum it up.
please.
Basically, if I'm summing it up, white people, and I addressed this over an hour ago. You're saying that they use religion to justify slavery to their
That's
people.
not what I said.
Or what were you saying then? That
I
they you
said that the evolution, the philosophical evolution, the understanding of what a human life is worth created a problem, a conflict, a fragmentation, a contradiction amongst the men who built the nation. So they justified it by saying that based on skin color, these people are less human than us.
and you said that they felt that way because of what? Their religion.
No, I said that
You
one
didn't just
thing,
say that?
I said that the spread of Christianity amongst the philosophical foundations of the West made us understand that what people are is made in the image of their God, and no human is inherently more valuable than another human. So they had
That's
to
what I'm saying.
dehumanize the people that they had as slaves. And
That
the way they did that was based on skin color.
that's literally what I just said, brother.
So
Like,
if it was based
are
on
you
skin color, wait,
following?
wait, wait, wait. So if you
No,
just
no,
said
no,
that it was based on skin color,
no,
then why are
no.
we supposed to
That's
go?
not what I'm saying. I am saying that you literally just said again that they had to come up with a different reason to justify slavery because their religion made them feel guilty about it. Because everyone's equal
No,
in the. You just said
it's
everyone's equal in the eyes of
bro. I
God.
don't
The
know. I don't know.
philosophers,
I don't know.
the
I don't know. I
religion.
don't know. I don't know if
You
you.
just said that.
I don't
You
know
just
if
said
you.
that.
I don't want to insult your IQ because I feel like that's like
So
anti-black.
hold on.
So
You
I'm not
didn't
gonna do
just
that.
say they had to come up with a reason to sell slavery to people because their religious ideals made them feel guilty about it. So they had to trick the people into being okay with it and gave them a reason to say it's okay to enslave this particular people
No,
despite what God says. You didn't
no,
just say that.
no. What I said was that they needed to make a special pleading based on their
Oh,
philosophical understanding of the worth of a human life. And the reason why I'm making this distinction is because it ain't about being tricked. It ain't about none of that. They genuinely like argue that black people were 3/5 of a person. So it's not about. It's like I don't know what you're trying to get at, but like the reason
because
why I'm
I'm using
clarifying
your
specific.
point.
My point is not based off what Christians did or didn't do. My point is based off of the evolution as a whole, and I gave Christianity as one example. So if it's one example, you don't take the one example and then try to use that as the overarching thing. That is called a straw man,
America.
brother.
We're talking about America, though.
America
Christianity
is
is our main religion.
America is not necessarily Christian.
So back then, most of them people weren't Christian, dude. Are we gonna really debate that?
What does that have to do with the U.S. Constitution? Is Christianity in the Constitution?
Like, bro, how many of those people who wrote that thing were Christians? Are you just gonna say that?
And they also follow a philosophical tradition that told them things that Christians also said. And so that's why I'm making a distinction. It's broader than Christianity. Christianity played a big part. The spread of Christianity and Catholicism played a big part. It was an essential feature, but it was not the only feature. So I'm not going to let you straw man me. I'm going to make you address the fundamental claim. I'm going to make you address the fundamental claim that I'm making, which is that they made a special pleading to justify what they were doing. Explain to me why slavery was okay on the white man in America's view. Why was it okay?
Once again, this is using your point because you mentioned this.
Okay.
I'm going to explain to you. They literally made it okay because, and not only that, they didn't have to just, like, slavery was never, even before America, slavery was not something that was just necessarily frowned upon because it was practiced across the world. So they didn't have to.
Thomas Jefferson, brother, Thomas Jefferson literally said that he trembles in fear every time he thinks about slavery. He literally said that.
He's a black man.
The nigga that like a slave owner, etc. He knew that slavery was unjust and immoral. He knew that. Can
I finish what I was saying now?
Bro, you're trying to make a capitalistic point. That's why you're trying to make a capitalistic point to say that oh, it was basically just convenience that made it to where they took boats from one continent to another continent to collect. Like when they could have collected their own people if that was the case. They could have went down to Mexico they could have went up to modern day Canada if that was the case. You're talking about people who went on a boat. You're talking about that's more convenient. That they went on a boat.
What's more convenient?
Bro, you telling me, bro, get the man, listen.
What's more convenient? You just go to a shop and buy somebody, or you go through a war and have to force a people into slavery. Forcing somebody into slavery through a war or going to a shop. What are you gonna do if you're a country that's young? You gonna go to a shop and just buy somebody?
So you think that there was no wars? So you think that there was no wars over black bodies in Africa?
Who said that there were no wars over black bodies?
So if there were wars,
nobody said that.
So
I said no.
I'm not letting you off the hook.
Because you're not letting me finish. I said specifically, the evil people in Africa were the predominant force.
Specifically.
If you say no, bro, it ain't no good and bad, bro.
It ain't no
good and bad, bro. You said that you just contradicted yourself.
So the people who enslaved their own people not bad now?
You just contradicted yourself. You just said that white Americans, white or British colonizers didn't force anybody in the war. The central premise of your claim
I never said nobody. I never said that.
Bro, the premise of your claim, right? The central premise of your claim is that white Americans went to Africa to get black bodies, not because of racism, but because of convenience. And then you justified that claim by saying that your proof of that claim was that they bought them like store people and they didn't necessarily have to go to war. Now I'm here to tell you that based on where is it? Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams' testimony. That would be incorrect.
Bro, you keep showing all these books.
I'm gonna keep showing you information. Are you
gonna say factually? Are you gonna factually say?
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to explain it to you. So what we know, we can go back to the
that's a person's opinion. That's a person's opinion.
No, it's not a person's opinion. This is so many scholarly sources in the back of this book. What are you talking about?
People's opinions.
These are peer reviewed.
Were they on the boat?
Bro,
well, by that logic, but Dietrich, by that logic, then you would be denouncing anything that you said because you weren't on the boat either. So anything that what you're talking about is all opinion based. So then we would not be having hold on. Then we would not be having a debate. We would just be talking about anything.
That's
Yeah.
different, and I can
So,
explain
so
why.
here are the
Can I
How
facts.
would it
explain
No, it's
wait?
why?
not
So
different.
so
It's not different.
just real quick. You would have more of an intellectual grounding to have a conversation like this than a person who is maybe wrote a book on it or studied it or who has who maybe has some education on it, formal education on it. You saying that like the books that I have behind me now, I'm not as book smart as Taji by far, nowhere near, and I'm smart and I'm not prideful. I'm prideful.
That
I'm
nigga
not as
ain't
prideful to
cold,
say
man.
that, but. So you saying that these books behind me and the books that Taji had, then they got 1,000 books behind him. You saying that none of that matters because it's all opinion based, but it's okay for you to give your opinion, and that's different.
I'm not giving an opinion. I'm giving stuff based on the economy. Does
How
it
do you
make?
no? How do you
Does it?
know it though? How do you
Are you
know
an
it?
economist?
I'm finna explain it. I'm finna explain it.
Are you an
If your
economist? That's a good
people,
question. Are you an economist?
I am not a communist, but I
So
took a
then you
class.
are just as the same
Once
person that you're
again,
speaking about in these
but
books. You
can
can't
I
make this shit
explain
up.
what
What
I'm
the fuck?
saying? Can I explain it?
I mean,
Can
sure,
I
it just don't make
explain it?
logical sense, but of course you can explain it.
Because you won't let me explain it, brother. Like, damn. If you're a
You got
person
the
in a
floor, bro.
young country, if you're a young country and you're able to go somewhere and buy people for pennies on the dollar, bring them back and have them pick your crops, pick your cotton, and you're able to get all this labor for free. You're able to go buy these people for penny on the dollar, then come back and make these people make profits for you that will be 100% profit based because you're not paying these people because they're slaves.
And I'm telling you, that's
You
only half the
cannot.
story. I'm telling you that like
Once
okay,
again, you ain't
you
let
have
me finish.
economic,
Can you be quiet,
bro. You
bro? Can
keep
you be
saying the same
quiet?
thing over and over, bro. We
Because you
already
not
heard you
let me
say this fooling
finish.
ass stuff,
Be
bro.
quiet. Be quiet.
All
Be
right, go
quiet, and
ahead.
I will give you the floor back.
All right,
You cannot
I'm about to
say
get, I'm gonna give you 60 seconds. Go.
60 fucking seconds. Are you
I mean,
fucking serious?
how long does it take to make a point? Earlier, I gave you like 5 minutes without
Because
nobody
you
cutting you
cut
off.
me off, bro. 60 seconds.
I'm
Are you
literally
serious?
how okay? Do you
I
need
will
10
give you the
minutes?
floor back. I
I
will
can make
give you
my
the
point in
floor
Whoa,
60
whoa, real quick.
seconds.
Respectfully, you're not giving me the floor.
because you
Nobody
gonna
gives me the
quote
floor.
some book,
But
bro.
just real quick. I'm giving you 60 seconds. That's a long time in the debate, bro, because you do realize somebody has to be able to listen to what you say
The
and then give a response. So I'm giving you 60 seconds. I'm telling Taji and in myself, and I'm telling you that we're gonna give you 60. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to have the
I get
floor.
60 seconds now.
How long
I
do you
gotta
need to
listen to
make a
him.
point, brother?
2 to 3
I'll take
minutes.
60
So
seconds
you
2
too.
to
can
3
actually,
minutes, nigga. What the
I'll
fuck you
take
think
60
this is,
seconds
nigga?
just to
2
make
to
it
bro,
3
fair.
do y'all
minutes.
got TikTok brain or something? Like y'all can't sit down for 2 to 3 minutes to listen
No,
to
it's
the
not
nigga. That's
about
not
that. It's
TikTok.
let me ask you
It's
this. Let me
not
ask you this
TikTok.
logically. Logically, how long do you think it'll take for someone to be able to listen to a point and then be able to give a rebuttal? If you're talking for 3 minutes, you're kind of the way that like common sense works. Most people, the first 30 seconds of a minute, what you say, it's not going to be that. It's not going to carry on as long as the extra 2 minutes because you're going to remember what you just most recently heard. So 3 minutes is a
So
long time. I gave you like 4 or 5 minutes early, and then the first person of what you saying, I didn't even fully remember because you was babbling, but I let you go because everybody say all Ant do
Yeah,
is cut everybody
that's the
off.
problem. That's the problem. You saying I was babbling, but you wasn't listening to what I was
You were
saying.
babbling. You were babbling. You don't
That's
need that
TikTok
long,
brain.
bro.
That's TikTok brain,
It's
bro.
no, it's
TikTok
TikTok
brain.
brain to
Do you
quote a
have
YouTube
any? Hold on. Do
video
you even have a
as
college? Wait,
evidence.
What's your brain? Do you have a college education?
No, I don't got a
So
college
then, what do you mean
education.
TikTok brain? What are you talking about? What are you
Niggas
talking
who can't
about?
have an
TikTok
attention
brain.
span that go over 10 seconds. That's what I mean by TikTok
Don't
brain.
let's not even assault each other's intelligence. You've never been formally educated. What are you talking
And
about?
how many folks in college are doing horrible right now? Don't even bring a degree.
This
It's
are
so
you
many who got a
what?
degree flipping burgers. It's niggas with degree flipping
That's not
burgers.
the
Wait,
Get
wait,
out
wait,
of
wait,
point.
wait,
here.
The
wait, wait, wait.
point is
But
Like
this is
what?
these are bro. When I'm quoting somebody, these are mainline
Now
I
back
didn't
scholars.
say
back to what
college
I
make you
was
smart.
saying.
I didn't say
Bro,
college
Back
make
to
you
what I was
smart. I
saying.
didn't say college make
that
you smart. But you said TikTok brain. So for somebody with no type of formal education to say, did you even graduate high school?
Yes, nigga.
Okay, so I mean, I'm just saying though, for somebody to try to say we have TikTok again, you came at least I don't know what Taji. I think Taji was gonna say something about your IQ, but he stopped himself. You came at my intelligence by just simply saying I'm gonna give you 60 seconds for the floor. That's more than enough time to make whatever point you want to make. You don't have to make
Mhm.
7
If
and
you're
8 different
trying to
points.
give
You
out
can make two.
detail and explain something, you need. So, are you gonna argue that you can explain something better in 60 seconds than you can in 3 minutes?
For the
Because our
for the
teachers
for the
I
didn't do
for
that.
can.
the for the
Our
most part
teachers
for
didn't
the
do that.
hold on, we're not in, first of all, that it's not a class, we're having a debate, which means that both sides would already have their
Well, we're
intellectual
trying to
property.
educate people,
Stop
aren't we?
stop stop
Aren't we
stop stop
trying to
stop stop
educate
stop
people?
stop sir, stop sir. The difference
It's
between a
not.
class and a teacher and students is because the students don't know anything. The teacher is the superior, usually intellectually, so they're giving their intellectual property, whatever it may be. So the student is trying to gain knowledge. This is a debate where both sides are basically are having a battle on who's going to be correct in the battle. So there is no teacher to student scenario. So that's not a good example that you could have gave. If you're
Well, I
making a
don't listen to
point, if
people
you
who
have a
debate
if
for
you
60
have points
seconds.
to make, more than likely things, because I don't think you stupid. I don't think Taji's stupid, and I'm not stupid. Most of us are adults. We ain't running the streets. We ain't out here going crazy. We're able to conjure up a point within 60 seconds, and the person that's hearing it is able to download
Nah,
that
no,
point.
bro.
Is able to
If,
download that
bro,
point and be able to respond to it. So 60
that's
seconds is
not
more
the
than enough
case.
time, and you should be able to
That
put
is
it
not the
together,
case.
summarize what you're saying.
Bro, that's not the case.
Okay, well,
You can't. You
this is
can't.
the case that we gonna say, because I ain't about to go back and forth about it. You get 60 seconds. I'm not gonna say nothing. Taji's not gonna say something. Go.
Okay. Does it make logical sense to get on a boat and travel 8 to 9 months to go pick up some people and then go 8 to 9 months back? You gotta manage your water, sleep in a boat with all these sweaty ass men. You can die. Does it make logical sense to say that the people who are motivated to go on that boat and pick up these other people, that damn, I can't wait to go over here and get these? Or does it make more logical sense to say, damn, I can't wait to go over here and get these assets because the return on investment is going to make my white family rich? What will you think was the driving factor in that? I can't wait to go get these niggers, or I can't wait to get rich?
All right. So as I said before,
Just real quick. Hold on. I'm sorry,
all right,
Taji. Now, did
good.
you need 2-3 minutes to say that?
I had to dumb it down, but
You had to dumb it down, or you just had to summarize it and condense it? Taji, go ahead.
All right.
that's
So
just my
yeah. So
slang, man. That's just my
so
slang, bro.
I have it here on screen, right? This is a selected bibliography, meaning like this is the work I'm about to show y'all now, meaning this is the work that I was about to quote, right? So I'm gonna just show it to y'all just so to debunk his point, right?
Sure.
About this is just somebody's opinion. So this is a peer-reviewed scholar, all right? Let me zoom in. This is a
Oh,
peer-reviewed
this
scholar. Wait, stop talking, bro. Stop talking. We gave you your time. This is a peer-reviewed scholar. As you can see, he's quoting mad other peer-reviewed scholars, mad other books, people talking about African history, the Atlantic slave trade, the trade of the Moors, Egypt, etc. So this is proof. This book contains proof, peer-reviewed proof that there were wars across Africa about slavery. The European didn't just come over there and collect for free. That's the only thing I was trying to say, and that doesn't miss damage to your claim that it was more efficient. That's it.
I never said they went over there and got them for free. I said they went over there and brought them. I
No,
never
well,
said it.
I mean free in terms of violence. Like they were met with violence often. They were often met with violence. Not everybody was just like, oh yeah, take them. We don't want them. Some groups were like that. I think it's like places like Benin was like that, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but it's definitely some places that was like that. But majority of places, they were met with war because it wasn't just, oh, we gonna sell it. It was imperialism overall. That like the fucking West was trying to take Africa. That's why Africa is so well. It's one of the reasons why Africa is so fucked up today.
Did I
Because they
not say
lost the
before?
wars.
Did I not say before that the bad people beat the good people, and that's why we had the slave trade? Did I
Wait,
not
wait a
say that
minute.
before?
The bad
No,
people beat the
because
good people.
bro, this
I
nigga,
mean,
bro.
I got a simplify.
Listen. Your claim was that slavery was about the American chattel slavery system was about efficiency. I'm telling you that's only half the story. I'm saying, first of all, we know that it wasn't that efficient because why? They were met with war, with mad century long wars. There's a
But the
whole Punic
white people
wars,
didn't have to
bro.
deal with a lot of those wars because
So
all they would do
bro, they
is
was
just go
fighting
to.
white people, bro. They weren't
I
always
said,
fighting white people, but after a certain point, they were definitely fighting colonization, bro. Now you disrespecting the African, which I don't give
now
a
you
fuck
talking
about
about
really. But
colonization. We talking about American
bro, we
slavery,
have to
not
talk about
colonization.
colonization because according to the scholars, according to the manuscripts, according to the that was there, and according to the mainline
Okay.
philosophy of race scholars that I know, I'm talking about the ones that I know. The colonialization was one of the main factors that led to racism, which turned into racialism. So, bro, this is not like, bro, this is this. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm trying to give you the sources. I take back every mean thing I said to you, bro. I was wilding out, but
Likewise.
I'm trying to give you the sources so that you could go and study for yourself. That's why I'm talking about Hannah Arendt. That's why I'm talking about Booker T. Washington and Chancellor Williams. I'm giving you black sources, white sources, left sources, right sources. You feel me? Like I'm not, because I really do this because I feel like you just ain't read this shit, so you don't know. So it's impacting your view on it, and that's fine. I'm ignorant too on certain topics, but the difference is that I don't talk. I try very hard not to talk about things that I don't know or don't understand.
Same.
So so are you gonna just ignore the 60-second thing I did? Or you just so this is what I mean? You keep talking
You
about
can
this
talk, man.
scholar.
Go ahead. You can talk.
You keep talking about this scholar, that scholar, this scholar.
You talk for as long as you want.
None of those scholars had anything to do with the nigga got on that boat and said, once I go get these assets, my family gonna be rich. Or I'm gonna be good for a few years or whatever. None of them scholars got nothing to do with. Does it make more sense that these folks went on a 2-year trip to go pick up these people because of, oh, let's go get these? Or did they go on their 2-year trip across the sea in their old ass boat because they wanted money? They wanted free labor. You talking about this
Does
quote
systemic
from
racism
the book?
exist? Does systemic racism exist?
Systemic racism exists.
Yes.
This country's not long. It did at some point, but no longer.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what are systems?
Systems like the government.
What is
You
the
know,
government? So systems. Look, I'm gonna just help you out, bro. I'm not gonna try to embarrass you. I'm gonna humble myself and
we
try to
had a
help you.
black president, bro. I'm not
Okay.
hearing it. We had
He
a black
wasn't. No, he
president.
Listen,
wasn't.
8
He
years.
wasn't.
listen.
Let's not go there. He was not black. If you want to debate that, I would love to, but I'm gonna let Taji take it. Go ahead.
Well,
He
he
was not
Look,
sold
black.
so
it.
I'm gonna ignore that, and I'm gonna say that for Ant because that's more cultural. So that's what Ant does. He's very good at that. So I'm gonna hit you where it hurt with the philosophy. So systems are just people. Any system that you name is gonna fall back on people. You say government is people. You say like the fucking whatever system you
Before
want to
we do
name is
that, can you tackle
no.
my 60-second argument? Or are you just gonna ignore that?
I bet. All right, so I'll do it in 60 seconds. Systems are
No,
just
no, no.
people.
The argument I made in 60 seconds. Are you
No,
gonna ignore the
I already
fact?
debunked that. I already debunked. I
So
already
so
debunked
you
that.
gonna say that them people took that 2-year long trip because of racism and
No, no,
not
no, no, no,
because
no,
of
no,
money?
no. What it
I'm
sounded like, he did was you when he tried to give you points. You said, "Well, it came from a book, and that don't mean nothing. That's just somebody's
But
opinion."
what does that
So
have
the
to do
book,
with the sellers?
I'm thinking. Taji can correct me if I'm wrong. That's why I'm telling you, just so you can understand like exactly where it came from. It seemed like you made a point. Taji was going into a point responding to that, and he was bringing out a book. I got a few books back here. Taji is way more well read than me, and he was giving you a book, and you said, "Well, that's a book. That don't mean nothing. That's an opinion." So he said, "Well, no, books are usually these books that I have, or books that should be used in an argument, comes from scholars, and there's intellectual property backing it, and there's sources that also backed it, which is why he came on the big screen and put up the sources at the end of that book to show you that the point that I'm making actually comes from a verifiable source." So he did
But the
respond
point,
to it. You just
the
felt like it
point,
wasn't
no,
good
he
enough.
didn't. He didn't because he's not addressing what I'm saying.
No, I don't think you
That book,
Dietrich, I don't think you
no,
understand it. He addressed your
that
point, and then
book,
as he was addressing it, you said it came from a book, so it doesn't mean anything because it's an
because
opinion.
what does that book have to do? What does that book and those scholars have to do with those
You just
plantation
willfully
owners
just
wanting
it
to make
established
money?
because it
They wanted to
establishes
make money
it
at the cheapest cost.
establishes that it wasn't as easy and convenient as you're trying to make it seem because your central premise
It was
is
the
that the only
most
reason that
convenient.
slavery happened was because of convenience, and it wasn't the most convenient. It's more convenient to go snatch my neighbor. The fuck is you talking about? If I got to go to war anyways, I might as well go to war with this. He right
So
next
you
to me.
saying
I
it
gotta
was
go
more
all the way to my
convenient?
op block. It's easier for me to kill
Oh
my
my
neighbor
God.
than it is for me to kill my op.
So you
All right,
saying it was more
like
convenient for the
bro.
government to start enslaving their own people and fighting the war over it than
Yes,
then just going
yes,
over there to
yes,
buy them for pennies on the dollar?
yes, yes,
So
yes.
hold on. I'm gonna
It,
repeat this.
bro, you're
You
talking about, bro.
saying
I'm
it
not
was
letting you
more
get me off my square. I'm
convenient.
not talking about that no more, bro. I'm about to
It was
explain to
more
you.
convenient because
Bro, you
you don't
just tried to.
sound good. You don't sound smart, bro. You
Oh my
saying it was
god,
more convenient. More
this is
convenient
wild to
for
me.
them. So you really gonna sit here and say, bro, that it
does it
was
cost
more?
money? Does it cost money to voyeur and risk your life going
Does
across
it
the
cost
fucking
money to
water?
have a war to
I mean,
enslave the white colonists that were over here?
it could, but I don't. But if I'm gonna risk my
The
life anyways, going
what?
across the water, bro, it don't necessarily cost money to go to war.
Bro,
The
why
indigenous
in
didn't have
the
no
hell
money.
would
The
they
indigenous
start
didn't have no
enslaving their
money.
own
The indigenous
people?
didn't have no money. Fuck is you
Bro, I'm
talking
talking
about,
about white Americans, white colonists.
bro?
I'm talking about the white colonists. You talking about, oh, why they ain't just
Bro,
go
I
to
can't deal
war
with this
with
nigga babble, bro.
themselves?
I can't do it, bro.
Like,
That's why I
bro,
checked out. I
You
checked out
just
probably
said,
like 45 minutes ago.
listen,
bro,
listen, bro.
do
You
you
just
hear
said,
yourself?
You just said that systemic racism doesn't exist anymore in this country, and I'm about to address that claim. So
No. We're gonna go back. You gonna sit here and say that, oh, why they ain't just kidnap their neighbor? Why the they do that? Why would they
yeah.
do
Is
that?
it
When
easier
they
for
can
you to
get
travel down the street? Is it easier for you to travel down the street and go kidnap somebody from your op block,
no, not kidnap,
or snatch somebody,
buy,
bro? So you telling me
buy,
every black person on the boat was
buy.
bald? Bro,
Majority,
this nigga's
yes.
ignorant, bro.
Majority. You hear that word?
Yeah,
Majority?
bro. I can't do it, bro. This nigga lost. He lost, bro. He lost,
Wow,
bro.
you
This nigga drinking the
dumb.
Kool-Aid, bro. I can't do it, bro.
So
I
you
can't
gonna say
listen.
it was more
Can
profitable,
we
Can
more
I?
we
Can
just
I?
gonna
Let me.
convenient
get we
I
can
just. I just
to
want to
have
we can
a
see.
agree
I
to
just want
war
to.
disagree
I
on
want
with
this.
to.
the
We
white
can agree to
colonists for
disagree on this.
themselves.
We can agree to
Taji,
disagree
Then
give
on
go
your
this.
buy the
Taji.
slaves.
Taji, give your point, and then Ditch, you gonna give your point, and I wanna give. I wanna respond, and then we gonna go ahead, Taji. You go first.
I bet. So we can agree to disagree on the slavery efficient point. I don't care about that. I care about the claim that systemic racism no longer exists in this country. This is something that Black Republicans love to say. Myself, I like the Republican. I used to like the Republican Party a lot. I don't have a like a walkaway story. I've never been a Democrat, but now I'm politically homeless because of these types of issues, specifically from the Black ones. All right, from the conservatives. So what I want you to understand is that systems are just people, right? So, um, people basically racism is when a person institutes a policy that discriminates against Black people. Okay, he can or is or does something in a system that affects disproportionately Black people. You don't even got to throw in the disproportionate stuff that can do a lot of work sometimes. So let's just say racism is when a policymaker, a person in one of these systems, does something to affect Black people based on the color of their skin, based on the fact that they're Black. If systems are just people, and the more people you have in the way of your goals, then the more systemic racism you will experience. Because if I am a white judge, right, and I have my race thinking toward Black people, I am in a system for sure. Am I not? Yes, I am. I'm a judge. I make decisions for other people. I put niggas away. I let niggas go free. I accept motions. I deny motions. I'm in the system. I am a core feature of the system. So if a Black person comes in and I don't like niggas, and I decide that day that I don't want that to walk free, or I don't want to get this a lighter sentence than I would give the white person, that would constitute systemic racism. Why? Because it's a person in the way of my goals, which is to get free, and he's discriminating against me because of this color of my skin. So when you dumb motherfuckers say, and not you, but niggas who make this argument and stand by it and die on the hill, that there is no systemic racism, and then when I ask you what a system is, you don't have an answer. It's like that goes to show me that you're into talking points and not arguments. So that's all I want to say about that. Systemic racism absolutely exists, and I am a Black
And
conservative telling you that.
I'll
Just
debunk that. And I'll tell
real
oh
quick.
yeah, I
Taji
forgot.
went. That was about 100. I'm sorry. That was about a minute and a 20 seconds. Just letting you know, that was about a minute and 20, minute and 30 seconds. I kind of timed that in my head, so it's probably not fully accurate, but that was about a minute and a half. Now you have the floor.
Okay, so you can't argue that this country is systemically racist when at the height of all those policies and stuff, Black people were doing better. In the 1940s to the 1960s, we had more families. We had less children out of wedlock. We had less debt. We had more home ownership. We had less crime. At the height of all the racist ass policies, Black people were on the track to surpass white people. Literally at the height of all the races in the country, Black people were on a trajectory to surpass white people as the most predominantly successful. But when we got rid of all that, we all started falling off. We got the highest child out of wedlock rate. We got the highest crime rate per capita. We got some of the I won't say we got the highest debt, but we are up there when it comes to debt. We got, man, what else we got? We got some of the lowest marriage rates, some of the lowest home ownership rates. All the stuff that we was second place in at the height of racism, we're not even in third place in now. We're at the bottom now. In 2026, Black people are almost at the bottom of the totem pole in America, despite all the freedom we got. But when we were enslaved, not enslaved, but when, in Jim Crow and during that whole period, Black people were the second successful in the country, like second most at the
All right.
height of all that.
Okay,
Now
so
what?
that was
Oh,
about
go ahead.
a minute and a half. So that's good. You able to formulate points in a short amount of time. So I do want to. I wanted to get to another point but I do want to address what you said. You never said that systematic racism didn't exist. What you said was during systematic racism, there were just points of the black community where it was better. You never said that it didn't exist. So that I don't know what you were
now.
Well,
That's what I
Taj, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just do this because I already addressed this argument actually. And I'm gonna put it at 2 times speed because then it'll be under a minute. So this is the funny thing. I'm gonna put it on the screen if you don't mind. This is from my YouTube channel called Systemic Racism is a Conservative Problem. Systemic racism is a conservative problem, bro. This was me back in the day. Conservatives need to talk about systemic racism. Can y'all hear it?
Turn it up. No. Turn it up.
Conservatives need to talk about systemic racism.
Do it 1.5. Don't do 2 times. That's way too fast. You look like you on crack.
Yeah.
1.25.
All right, let's get it. Conservatives need to talk about systemic racism because if we don't, then we let the left define what it is. This idea that there is no systemic racism is just obviously false. But what do we mean by systemic racism? Just for now. So a system is an organized pattern of roles, rules, and decisions enacted by people occupying positions within institutions. Systemic racism, therefore, is racial discrimination produced by the decisions or practices of people occupying institutional positions of power, regardless of whether those practices are explicit or coordinated. Having defined our terms, things become very clear very quickly. All systems are constituted and operated by people in positions of authority. Some people in positions of authority hold racist beliefs or enact racially discriminatory judgments. Some systems, therefore, enact racially discriminatory outcomes. That is, systemic racism exists. To deny systemic racism is to assert that no racist individuals occupy positions of institutional authority. Now, to summarize, all systems are collections of people in authority. Some people in authority are racist. Some systems involve racist agents. All systems are composed of people exercising discretion through rules, offices, and enforcement mechanisms. The more expansive a system is, the more discretionary power it concentrates across a larger number of actors. Discretion exercised by fallible people necessarily increases the probability of bias, including racial bias, being expressed in outcomes. Larger and more complex systems. All right, so that's the point. That's basically the point. Y'all smart enough to get it. But yeah, I just wanted to show, like, bro, this is this stuff that we dealt with already. And the main and the last thing I wanted to say, just like you're not gonna say why stuff goes like basically why our birth rates like our out of wedlock birth rates. Yeah. So what it was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, correct?
Yeah. So Lyndon B. Johnson was a snake.
Lyndon B. Johnson, right? That's
systematic.
That's a systematic issue, then, right? Exactly. So
I said now.
The moment you name a cause, now.
Well, now, I would argue that immigration is systematic racism against Black Americans. 100%. Would you disagree with that, Republican?
I wouldn't disagree with that.
So then that means that you believe in systematic racism. Taji proved this point.
Thank you.
But I'm saying, I said now. I said at some point it did.
That's now. Immigration is an issue against Black America now. That's one of the main things that I speak about personally because I don't like immigration. Immigration is something that specifically, and you're a Republican, so you should agree with this, that the Democratic Party stands on. So with that being the case, and I'm not a Democrat, Taji's not a Democrat, you're not a Democrat. So we're sitting here arguing systematic racism. We don't give a what side it came from, the Democrat or the Republicans. Me, I say both. So that means that if you believe that immigration is an issue that affects Black Americans and you're Republican, so then that means that you would agree that systematic racism is a true thing because immigration directly affects Black Americans more than any other group in this country.
And I'm aware of that. But
so do you agree that systematic racism exists? Yes or no?
I don't agree that it exists currently in 2026.
Man, you gotta get off the talking points, bro.
That's wild to me. That's absolutely insane to me. That's absolutely
in 2026.
That's absolutely insane to me. You just willfully just don't want to take the L, brother, and it's all good. But that's just how people are.
But did I not say it don't exist now?
I'm saying that it exists now. Immigration. Right now. We do have an immigration problem right now, especially in Black America. We 100% have an immigration problem right now. Yes, we do.
Yeah, just look at the Venezuelans in Chicago, bro. Just look at it.
We 100% have an immigration problem right now. You're a Republican, so as a Republican, you're saying that America don't got an immigration issue?
No, I'm not saying we don't have an immigration issue.
Let me ask you
immigration. I'm saying that the immigration issue that we're dealing with right now, there are no policies in place that keep us from enacting whatever we want to do in America as Black people in 2026. No policy in place, even in policy that regards to immigration.
No. So you're saying systematic racism is only something that says that it's distinguishable to say Black or colored or Negro is not allowed to do said thing. Because I'm not I don't want you to think that I'm arguing that either because I'm not. What I'm arguing is there are policies that are set up that disproportionately affect Black Americans specifically. Immigration is one of those issues. I can name other ones. Immigration is 100% one of those. Another thing that I would bring up, another thing is abortions. That's another thing that I would say is that.
Oh, yeah, that's
because that's stuff that's
Well,
specifically
I'll
pushed on
agree
Black
with you on
Americans.
that one.
So,
That's
but you said,
ethnocide.
but thank you. That's ethnocide, right? I would say abortions. I would say immigration. I would say even government assistance in some cases, because government assistance keeps people not wanting to expand themselves. So you have to rely on the government, which is for the Democratic Party, Republican. So what it tells me,
And I'm aware of that.
so then are you saying, basically you saying you agree with all this, but you're saying that this is not an effect of systematic racism in America that disproportionately affects Black Americans, that makes it harder for Black Americans to succeed. And no, before you answer the question, no, I am not saying that Black Americans should be inexcusable for our own faults. If any, I got people that don't even fuck with me because I call out Black Americans for the BS that we do, the crime, the hypersexualization, I talk about all of that shit. Don't get it twisted. I don't know if how long you've been watching my channel. I'm not one of those victims. I can't be successful because I'm Black and my skin color is holding me back. My skin color don't hold me back about shit. You know what I'm saying? I have my mother, my father in my life. The point that I'm making to you is, are you saying, but even though I'm a conservative, I can still understand that systematic racism exists, and those are current examples of that. Are you saying that that's not systematic racism?
To me, what systematic racism is when you don't have a choice. Like Jim Crow, we didn't have a choice.
I don't have a choice.
Crow.
I don't have a choice when a judge.
You got a choice to not get an abortion. You got a choice to not get on welfare.
I don't have a choice when when a judge sits in front of me and can give me less time based on the same circumstances that another person has. That he gave that person with a different skin color than me.
What crime are we talking about?
I don't have a choice when a judge does that. That's the
clear.
Do you agree? Let me ask you. Do you agree with the 1360 argument that 13% of the population commit 60% of the crime, violent crime?
Yeah.
You think that that's true? You think that's okay?
I grew up in
I want to break that down,
bro.
I would let it break that down.
Mississippi and Memphis.
So
I would let it break that down. I grew up in Cleveland. Cleveland is just as bad, if not worse. Yeah, but I want to break that down.
Way worse.
In Memphis?
Memphis is probably a little worse, but Cleveland is just as bad, and we're a smaller city, so per capita it probably is worse. But Cleveland and Memphis are both terrible cities. Worse.
But I just want to hammer this point home too, like, because you're saying that systemic racism doesn't exist today, and then you're listing off policies from the 60s where systemic racism obviously existed, and then also the 1980s you would have to consider as well. But let's just say you don't want to consider the 80s and the 90s, where first the Republicans gave us the war on drugs, and then the Democrats gave us mass incarceration.
Crime bill.
Okay, so let's just take the 80s and 90s out. Let's just go back to the 60s. That gives us 62 years removed from systemic racism. So we have grandparents, and in some cases parents, who lived through these issues, through these policies, still to this day, still alive, 62-year-old people. So it's like 80-year-old people, even 90-year-old people, even. So you're telling me that the effects of what they did in the 60s don't exist today? Come on, now that don't make sense. We still got people who are functioning adults who lived through that time. So then if you add in the 80s, the war on drugs in the crack era, then that cuts that down to 40. And then if you add on mass incarceration, that cuts it down to 30. Black Americans have only been free by your standard, and free of systemic racism, to be specific, by your standard, for 30 years. My grandmother's like 70 something. So that means that for majority of her life, by your standard, she's been fucked over by the US government. So now you say, so now you're telling me that systemic racism doesn't exist for that person? It absolutely does. That probably hindered her, or at least, it didn't make easier for her on her rise up out of slavery, up out of poverty, up out of all the things that Black people are faced in this country. So it just comes off as calloused when you talk like that. You dehumanize us when you talk like that. If white people, I'll tell, yes, you are, because a core feature of human identity is like victimhood. Black people, like every person starts as a victim. The baby comes out of a womb crying for his mother's milk. It's a victim to its suffering for food. It literally, that's a core part of your identity and your growth and development. That's why kids think that they're the center of the world. And the reason why I bring this up is that because even for all the shit I can say about what white people did that was fucked up, I can't say that when I look at different white ethnicities that they ain't been victims to something. They've been victims of something. It's just not my concern because I'm not white. But and they're not expected to deny their history. But whenever a Black person talks about their history and talk about the effects of history today, we are told to deny our history, and that is dehumanization, because the tragedy is that man is born a child. And just to put this in more like concrete philosophical terms, what is a person? A person is something with a past, a present, and a future. Because if you don't have a future, you're dead. And if you don't have a past, then you never happened. So that means that a person is something with the past, present, and future, or at least something with the beginning, middle, and end. So why is it that I'm expected to be cut off from my past and the effects that my past have on where I am in this moment and where I am going in the future? So this is why I say that y'all dehumanize Black people when y'all try to limit the effects of what this country did to us. You're literally dehumanizing me. You're cutting me off. You're fragmenting me from the whole of who I am, brother.
Oh, can I explain why I disagree with that?
Okay.
You can give your perspective.
So, and this is why I disagree with that, because during your grandmama's youth in the 40s, 60s, 70s, or I'll say early 70s, the discrimination and the laws and policies put in place, they had no choice but to follow those. But after Lyndon B. Johnson did the Civil Rights Act, everything they enacted to manipulate us, it was a choice to do. Welfare was a choice. Our women chose to kick men at the house to get their welfare check from the white man. Abortions are a choice. Women don't have to go through abortions. Women don't have to be in a situation to where they feel outside of rape. Outside of rape, that's different. But women don't have to force themselves to get abortion. They can get with somebody who they can marry and have a family.
I don't
Dudes don't
disagree
have
with
to
that, by the
force.
way.
Yeah, oh, good. And then when in dudes like the crime
I
bill
do.
era, the coke era, men, Black men, they was not forced to sell coke. They was not forced to sell dope. They were not forced to do any of
So
those things, but
That's
they
true.
did.
But
And
so
then,
I
so
don't. I want to
let-
say this. I don't disagree with that, but again, this is where you get into the situation where you don't like to add context. This is what I mean. So it's like, I'll use this example, and Taji might not like this because it's gonna sound dehumanizing, but it's true. If you take let me not even use that example. I'll just use another example. If you only have access to what you have access to, can you get upset at the person or try to blame the person if that's all they have access to by using said access that's available? What I mean by that
No.
is the same policies that you're saying. So I'm not disagreeing with you that it is a choice, sure, because we're humans and we have the ability to make decisions. I'm not disagreeing with that. But when you put someone in a situation and you tell them, hey, these are your few options that you have to choose from, and then and then out of those few options, you tell them that, and most of those options are probably not the best options, probably options that's going to affect them, affect their families, affect the children, affect history, whatever it may be. And then you tell them that, hey, well, you chose that option. Well, hey, you just a dumb motherfucker that don't know how to do nothing. You made a choice to be on some bullshit. I think you're missing the context to this situation, that just because
I'm
people
aware of the
that
context.
I don't think you are though,
I want
because
to
you
go. I want to go
don't
after
you're
Ant.
not adding a context.
I'm
So
gonna
I don't
add
know.
it this time. I'm gonna add it.
So
So
wait.
here's the thing.
Before you go again, I gotta address what you said, because I agree with Ant. I thought I was gonna disagree with him more, but I'm gonna do what I do, which is like philosophize it more to really like bring it out. So like Ant is talking about free will, right? And he's talking about the fact that like
Right.
somebody's presenting you two choices and you have to decide which one is the right one. But given your circumstance and the structural violence that you experience, your choice is going to be affected. Not everything Marx said was wrong. Your material conditions absolutely affect your thinking. And to bring it more like from the left to center, right? Because now I'm on the left. I'm on my left is on this side. But anyways, like basically, because now I'm on the left, I want to bring it back to center, because that's where I like to be. So when you say, oh, it was all of these things that people did were of choice, right? Well, if a woman is abused and she decides to stay with a man, is it a choice or is it coercion? Depending on the type of abuse. There's psychological abuse, there's financial abuse, where people don't believe that they have the option to leave. The people don't believe that they have any other option. This is my only way that I can get out of a situation. So if abuse is real and psychological abuse is real, and the psychological effects of literal projects, government projects being set up, and systemic injustice being set up against Black people, if all of that stuff is real, then how is it a choice and not coercion? It seems like people were coerced to believe that they only had two choices. And I'm not, and so I'm not here to say, because also if I overstate that, then I'm also taking people's humanity away by stripping them of their will. So I'm not going to do that. You still can make the right choice, but we cannot deny that the pressure is more forceful in those situations. The same way, if a woman is abused, this government absolutely abused black people. So the same way that a woman is psychologically abused and she might not realize her choices, the full extent of her choices, is the same way black Americans in those situations, specifically during the war on drugs. Like, you can't say that we were not victims of psychological abuse. We were, and that's all I want to say.
2 points. Even Galveston, Texas, when they didn't even know that slavery was ended. They didn't know that. That's why that's why we have Juneteenth. In Galveston, Texas, they didn't know that slavery was over with. They found out 2 years later. They didn't even know. So you're gonna say, well, you guys had to. No, they genuinely didn't know, even though they could leave if they wanted to. So I mean, I don't. It was another point I wanted to make, but I forgot. But like, choices matter, sure, but what's in front of your face also matters. And if you don't know, you don't know. Oh, I know the other point. Even in a court of law, coercion is something that you can get prosecuted for. It's manipulation. You can use it even in a court of law. That's why somebody that, it's not just going to be black and white. Well, you made a decision to kill him. Yeah, you made a decision to kill him, but did someone threaten you to do this? Did someone threaten you to set this person up? Or where you was in a car, you was driving, but you was a part of it. Yeah, but were you taken against your will? Was there somebody in the back of your head? Because you could have just got shot in the head. No, someone was forcing you or making you to make a decision. So that's not the same. Like, that logic matters.
And there's a famous quote from Lyndon B. Johnson, that destroys your whole premise and art.
I'm gonna have them niggas voting 200 years.
Right. So then what did he do? He coerced black people out of our political institution. He used integration as a way to set up a lie, by the way, because there were a higher percentage of Republicans that signed the Civil Rights Act of 94 or 95. I can't remember which one it was because it was two of them, but there were a higher percentage of Republicans than Democrats that actually signed that bill in the legislation, per the congressional record. So he actually did it based on a lie, but he used the promise of the civil rights movement to convince people that black people specifically, that the Democratic Party was the party for them. And so how is that not coercion? Like, he's literally doing what he did based on a lie and telling you that that's what he about to do.
I'll explain why. Because we had political leaders back then that was calling this out. That
we had presidents back then.
We had Malcolm X. I said political leaders. So I guess I could say community leaders. Malcolm X literally warned us about the white liberal before they killed him. He warned us.
Wait, no. He warned us about the Republican too. We not about to try to make Malcolm X a Republican or a Democrat.
He did, but he said the white liberal was a fox that promised you honey, but it's only gonna give you vinegar. Like, he made a point that the white liberal, the Democrats, they promise you honey, but they giving you poison. We had the knowledge to know that what LBJ was doing came with some backhanded shit, but people made the choice. Because here's the thing, you said the choice about the other examples y'all gave. Women had the choice to get free money from the government, and some of those women were in relationships, and a lot of those men made the choice to basically remove themselves from the household so that they lady can get a check. But what they didn't realize, they didn't realize the long-term effects of that. And then you talking about the coke thing. Black people had a choice to make money besides selling coke and then getting prosecuted by that crime bill. And I'll explain why.
What time was that? Because, what time was that? What years you speaking?
Talking about when black folks were selling coke and all that? Or you talking about crime bill?
What year? No. What you said we had a choice to not sell coke and all that. What year did black people have all these other opportunities to make money? What years or what time?
Oh, talking about the 80s and 90s?
Okay, so that was after deindustrialization, right? Which is the late 60s, early 70s.
I mean, yeah.
Do you know what deindustrialization is?
Deindustrialization, when they basically taking away all the manufacturing?
Yeah, and even more so, not even just manufacturing, not even just jobs, not even just plants. Also what you learn in school. Like, when you learn in school, like, you do realize, I always mention this point, but a lot of the men specifically, they would come out of high school with a certificate in welding, with a certificate in being a mechanic or whatever it may be, so they can go straight from their high school. They don't have to go to college. They can go straight from their high school, go work at a job that's in their local area and provide for their families. They started to remove that out of the schools in the late 60s, early 70s, because they like, why are these blacks still able to take care of their families? Why are these blacks still getting married? Why are these blacks still have opportunity other than just going out here committing crimes and selling drugs? So that's where that started at. So well, at least what I'm not saying is that you still don't have a choice. Yes, you have a choice because you're a human. But I'm also saying that context matters, and that's the whole entire thing I've been trying to tell you this entire conversation.
You can't make that argument, though. You
Go
can't
ahead.
make that argument when in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s we were the number 2 in the country.
Why do
You
you
ain't gonna tell me back then they didn't discriminate.
Well,
You
but
ain't
we
gonna
already
tell
but we
me.
already spoke about the no man in the house. We already spoke about the no man in
No,
the
no,
house
no. I'm
thing.
saying you ain't gonna tell me that they didn't discriminate against the black welder back in the 40s,
Well,
50s, and 60s.
but that was after segregation. So once we got integrated, it was a little bit different. That's not the same thing.
And also the thing that you're missing too is like you will mention a policy and then not mention its effects.
Right.
Okay. And so and you're getting back into that dehumanization thing again because you're basically treating black people as if they can predict the future instead of just exist in it when they get to it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if it's no father in the home, right? Like if that's your Republican talking point you want to go with, let's go with it. Right? There's no father in the home.
That's
And
one.
some of that is true. Some of that is true. Right. Like there's a lot of single motherhood going on at this time. Like little boys is trying to figure out their own way through this life. They trying to really figure it out. The policies that were set up did that to them, at least in some part. Maybe they had they had autonomy in the situation. They could have made a better choice, but that is to say that assumes that they would have known how both choices were going to turn out. That's point number one. And then that also goes to that's addressing the 60s to the 80s, then addressing the 80s to the 90s, that when a black man decided to sell coke at that time, what you have to understand is that he might not have been able to see the full picture of what was going on. So to talk about him in retrospect, like, oh, he should have known better, is like, yeah, like we know that now because we see the effects of the shit. But back then we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Until it's too late. We already warned, we already conditioned, we already seeing the benefits, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the war on drugs and like the spread of cocaine. So I'm not and crack specifically. I'm not saying that they don't have any culpability. I think selling crack was wrong, obviously, especially to your own people. It don't make no sense. Looking at it today, like, but it's like back then, I'm in it. I'm living it. Like, but the moment I think about the moment is gone. I have no conception of the future. Well, I have no certainty of the future until I get there. I can die today. You see what I'm saying? So,
That was street life though. Everybody wasn't a street thug just out the womb like that.
but we're
Now
talking about.
this is the point I'm basically making, bro. Like my granddaddy, for example, he had 5, 6 kids. The nigga had 3 jobs. He was able to provide for him for when my grandma didn't have to work. And he had 6 kids to take care of. He was a bus driver, a football coach, and a photographer. And he
That
grew
nigga
up
wasn't
in
making
that
no money.
time.
That nigga wasn't making
You're
no
being,
money doing all
yeah,
that.
hey, listen.
If he could feed 6 miles and if he
You're
could take care of his wife, that's all people cared about back then.
you're being meta racial, and by extension, you're being anti-black. You're being meta racial and anti-black. Two things that I really do struggle with. Like I can't stand when people do
But
it.
no, but how when I'm
You're
trying to
basic
explain to
because
you
you're trying
that
to argue that there are good black people and bad black. Like you're trying to argue that there's a good slave and a bad slave. If we
no,
both
it's not my
struggling, yes,
argument.
you are because
We
you keep
had the
comparing your
working, we
family.
had the
No,
working man,
brother,
and we
you
had the
keep
man who wanted quick, fast money.
right. Which one is better, the working man or the one who want quick, fast money?
The working man.
Right. So you're basically so again, you're being meta racial. You're trying to it's like espouse a set of values onto another black person that you don't know or understand, that you have no concrete like attachment to, and try to make a judgment about his character. That's meta racialism. You're basically replacing skin color with like some like abstract values that you can't even quantify. Like the person that make fast money could be making fast money legally. I could be fucking
I'm
editing
talking about
videos.
in the
I could be
context of
editing video.
drugs.
I could be editing videos with AI
I'm talking
and
about the
making money.
context of drugs.
No. What I'm telling you is that what I'm telling you is that it's anti-black because you're basically trying to say that like black people should be a certain way versus another way without the full context, which is the whole problem with everything you're saying. The problem with everything that you're saying is that
Bro,
it's
we talking about in
meta-racial
the
actually.
context of
Because
coke. We talking about the drug
no,
era, dude.
yes, I'm telling you that you wasn't there. So the same way you told me I couldn't, like my scholars couldn't talk about the on the boat, I'm telling you that you can't make a value judgment. You can talk about what happened and you can make an opinion based on it, but when it comes to the character of the individuals, you don't know those black people. So you're holding up one. It's like when
That's
people
why I
use.
gave
It's
my
like when people
granddad as
hold
an
on.
example.
Yeah. And that's like if I use Booker T. Washington as the standard for all black people because he thought that like that black people got just as much as white people out of slavery. Like I'm basically picking the good slave versus the Nat Turner and saying that Nat Turner, what he did, that didn't make any sense. But what Booker T. Washington did, that made all the sense in the world. That's anti-black. That's metaracial because I'm basically.
Nothing I just said was anti-black, dude.
All right.
Like, come
okay,
on, man.
okay. I don't know if we're gonna get nowhere because we're running in circles, but I do want to do this. I wanted to address, and somebody sent something in the chat, so I got to. I wanted to address this 1360 argument. So I asked you if you agree with that. You said yes. Can you break that down for me, just so we know that we on the same understanding of what that is? Taji, go ahead.
Before you break it down, I just wanted to say I'm gonna go ahead and get off because I had to I had some stuff to do. I just got so sucked into this.
For sure.
This was great, and I definitely will.
Out.
I definitely will come back on anytime.
Hey, hit me, brother.
For having me.
Hit me for sure. Hit me.
I'm gonna text you, brother.
For sure that
Yep.
you know that.
I got you. Yep.
Shout out to my guy. Okay, so hold on real quick. But yeah, I definitely want to address that conversation, and we'll end it off on that. We'll show basically your take on the 1360 argument. 13% of the population commits 60% of the crime.
Because when you take the black male population and you compare it to the other male populations or just populations of people who commit crime, well, let me include the male and the female because you got to include both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the black male especially commits more crime or the same crime per capita as the white male, despite the white male being 2-3 times larger than the black male. How is it that we're racking up the same the same crime numbers and we're only 13% of the population? It's even less when you include the black male, because that's what 6.5. So you're talking about 6.5 of the population is able to equal out crime numbers to the white male counterpart or the Mexican male counterpart, despite the fact they are 40% of the population, 30% of the population. So when you look at it like that per capita, you can't really argue that we're not responsible for 60% of the crime when we're putting up the same numbers as the majority of the people in the country. So
Okay, cool.
that, yeah, like I don't know how you would argue that.
So well, I mean, I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna argue it. So you know that when you say 1360, when you say just off the initial point, this is where I would have destroyed Charlie Kirk in this debate. When you start off and you say 13% commits, you're already trying to say that full 13% is doing the crime. So I understand the argument, or I guess that maybe what you're trying to make is you're just saying a part of that race. But when you say 13% of the population, well, that includes the entire 13%. There's almost 50 million Black Americans in America. So when you say 13%, you're including the entire 13%. And it just goes more into the point, which is just not true. And then when you say 60, do you know what that 60 is?
What, violent crime or just crime in general?
They say violent crime, but like, do you know the context behind that 60, or do you just genuinely believe that 60% of that is just violent crime, or 60% of that is just people committing crimes? Go ahead.
Well, last time I looked at it, it included assaults with a deadly weapon, carjackings, robbery, and yeah, I mean that's battery. That's the crime.
Is that the only context that you want to add? Just so we hear. Is that the only context you want to add? Is there any context that you want to add moving forward during this conversation?
Well, let me expand the context.
Yeah, please.
So I guess I'll correct myself and say the entire 13% isn't committing 60% of the crime, which I mentioned earlier. I said because most of the Black females ain't committing crime, but let's say I'm focusing on the predominantly the Black male, which is 6.5%.
Most Black men aren't committing crimes either. That's both. Most Black men and most Black women are not committing crimes.
Yeah, most Black men and Black women aren't committing crimes, but the portions that are committing them at such an extent to where it equals out to the majority of the country from the white population.
Okay,
that's my point with that.
Is that the only context that you want to add? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, man.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you for a final time. Is that the only context you want to add?
I mean, there's reasons why, but we discussed with the other guy as to why we became criminals and all this stuff.
Now,
but
okay, cool. Now, do you know that 60%? You know that there's a difference between convictions and arrests, correct?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay, so you do realize of that 60%, that's not convictions.
So out of that 60%, I mean,
not out. No. What I'm saying is not out of the 60%. The 60% is
it's not
is
conviction.
not convictions. I might have said it backwards. Is not convictions. Those are arrests. Like I've been arrested.
Okay.
Like for example, I've been arrested before. I have zero criminal record. I have no criminal record whatsoever. But I have been arrested before. But because they took me in and they got my information and all that, technically I'm on paper as a black arrest. But I've
But are
never
you on
committed a crime.
paper?
I'm not a criminal. I have zero. My last name is Public. Anthony Bernard Gamble III. I was named after my father. I have zero criminal record. Anybody can look that up.
Yeah, but that arrest that you had, they ain't gonna mark you down as a number for a violent crime.
The
We're
same, but
talking
no.
about
The point is the logic still applies for violent crimes too. I'm just giving you an example of the arrest. The logic still applies for a violent crime as well.
but if somebody murder somebody, let's say Johnny down the street
Mm-hmm.
murder homeboy,
Right.
but they ain't got the evidence, or they ain't got the evidence to present in trial that he
Right.
murdered homeboy, but everybody in the hood saw it. You can't say that stat can be erased when everybody in the hood saw him get arrested and he
What?
did get brought to court because he walked free. Don't mean
No,
that
I don't think you're
it's
going too
not
far into it, brother. I'm not there yet. The point that I'm making is, let's use that example. You said Johnny, if Johnny or whoever his name is, if Johnny committed said crime and the whole hood saw it. Well, let's go with that whole hood saw it. Well, the hood get to talking. Sometimes the hood like to snitch. Sometimes the hood like to tell people that didn't even have nothing to do with it and be involved in it. So if Johnny committed said crime, but if 5 people got arrested for that crime, does that mean that 5 people murdered somebody, or does that mean 5 people got arrested for one crime where one person murdered one other person?
5 people got arrested for one crime. So
Thank
I'll
you.
give you that.
So we agree to that convictions and arrests aren't the same thing, because you can get arrested for something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you committed a crime. But under the paperwork, it's going to show that we're talking about arrests, not convictions. But it's easy as a Republican talking point to just say, well, 60% of them are just committing crimes. No, 60%, it's not even close to 60%. It's arrests. Now, that's the first context that I wanted to add. The second context I wanted to add is rearrests. So, for example, let's say Johnny committed stealing something from a store. Let's say Johnny armed robbery, whatever it may be, right? And as by the way, it's not just violent crime; it's all of this crime. It's not just violent crime. They like to say that even all crime is the same exact logic. We're gonna get to all that in the chat, I see y'all. But it's everything. So we're not talking about rearrest. So for example, let's just say Ant CEO, I stole a car, right? Let's say I stole a car, committed grand theft auto, I go to jail for a year, I get out. And let's say I steal another car. Oh, I'll go back to jail and I go to jail for now 2 years. So let's say I steal another car. And they gave me 3 years. Maybe they gave me 10 years for repeated offender, whatever it may be. Repeated offender. So you know what that means? That doesn't mean that 3 black people arrested or committed a crime. That means one black person who just so happened to me in the example, a black man, did said action, did said crime. But it's going to show up on the arrest records or the conviction records or whatever it may be that this same thing it's not going to show that this same thing happened with the same person. It's just going to show that a black person did this, a black person did this, and a black person did this. So it's going to be presented as this was 3 separate crimes that 3 separate black people did, when actuality it was one crime that one black person, or it was multiple crimes that maybe one black person did. So all I'm doing is adding context to say, and again, by the way, just real quick, what I'm not saying is black crime is not an issue. Just understand that. And it's really no such thing as black crime by proximity, but we ain't gonna even go there. I ain't gotta go too deep into it. I'm not saying that crime is not an issue, nor am I defending crime. I don't know if you watch my 45-point presidential campaign, and I'm in a series. You can go watch the video. I think we should be even harder on criminals. I think we should behead half of these motherfuckers, and not just because they black, just for doing what they do. But that's just my own personal opinion. I'm just adding context where it matters. That does not mean that somebody committed 3 separate people committed a crime. It means that one person may have committed that crime again. But again, it's going to be presented as 3 separate crimes and 3 separate people. Do you want to concede to that as well, or do you agree with that as well?
I agree with that in Pacific.
Okay, cool.
I agree with that.
Okay, cool. So that's the second context, second form of context. The third form of context is also people who consider themselves black on paper. What would you consider somebody that's biracial, white or black?
I mean, I was sitting black.
Right. There we go. So biracials commit crime too. But guess what? Even though they have the equal amount of black and white, guess what? You're and the U.S. government is going to consider them black, even though they have the equal amount of white. So that biracial person can commit a crime, but guess what? They're black. So that goes under the black statistics, especially now. You know that they say that the biracial rate is going up because a lot of people are intermixing and all of that. Where you go?
Oh, sorry. Somebody was calling me.
That's all good. But they say that this whole biracial thing is going up. They say about I don't know how true it is, but they say by 2050 the the amount of interracial relationships is gonna be like the majority of people. I hope not, but that's what they say. So that goes into the context as well. Not to mention people who classify themselves as black on paper. Sometimes, and I don't know if you noticed, but Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. But guess what? They still do paperwork too. Some of them identify as black. So when I say Puerto Ricans, I mean just Latin people in general. A lot of Latinos consider themselves quote unquote black, which they are not. Right? Africans,
There are
Caribbeans.
some.
They're not really black though. We can get to that Obama argument too if you want to go there too. But they're not really black. But Africans, Caribbeans, people who are of Latin descent, biracials, all of them, not all of them, but a good, because I think Puerto Rico, like the majority of them consider themselves white. A lot of Mexicans consider themselves white. But that's why they have that little caveat. They'll say, pick a race, and then they'll say, are you Hispanic or Latino? It's separate, right? It's always separate because the formulation of that did not come about the same way as it did because it was really just Anglos and Black Americans and Native Americans that was already here in America. So that's how it started. But what I'm making this point to say, you have a lot of people that classify themselves as black in America and they're not black. For example, like I can't go to Haiti and classify myself as Haitian just because we're the same. And they don't have a race thing there. They classify themselves as Noir, which is anybody in Haiti. If you're there, they're gonna call you Haitian. So it's a complete difference as it is in America compared to if you or me was to go to another country. So I'm adding context to these points to say that the 13% argument is a lie. What we're also not mentioning, well, since we made that point, are you going to concede to that too? Do you agree with that point as well? People who classify themselves as black, because when we use the term like black crime, they're not talking about Haitians. They're not talking about Jamaicans. They're not talking about Dominicans. They're not talking about Nigerians. They're not talking about Senegalese people who may be in America. They're talking about black Americans. So we are the ones who get the negative. We're the ones who get the negative connotations today. And which you're a Republican, I would think that you would agree with, like, people having separation and people delineating, especially when it comes to their own ethnic group.
Yeah, but with the crime stats, they not saying, oh, the African American, we're gonna separate him from the Haitian
Right.
legal American.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Oh,
So we
okay. So
agree.
I'm like, okay, then. So if a Haitian American who's here legally commits a crime, that's still contributing to the crime rate.
Exactly. So we agree.
So we agree to that.
Thank
But
you.
even when we exclude that factor, you got to look at the numbers. And black people who commit murders in the country and are black African American people, and then you compare that to, because a lot of black people who come over here from abroad, they don't get involved. Some do, but a lot who come over here abroad,
Brother, the argument
they
that I'm
just,
making is not majority. The argument that I'm making is anecdotal. I'm making the anecdotal
okay,
argument to say that this is a caveat. Notice that I mentioned multiple different points. I'm not mentioning one
yeah,
point to say that this is the said thing. I'm mentioning anecdotals to say that all of these anecdotals add up as a collective. So you're agreeing with me. Yeah, sure. Most of the immigrants that come over here from other countries don't get into crime, but some of them do. So they still should be brought up in the conversation when we talk about black crime because context matters. Rearrest matters. People, how you identify matters. Not rearrest, but getting arrested for the same, or getting arrested in general matters. I'm adding context to the situation. So I'm not saying that the majority don't come over here and commit crimes.
I know that. This is all I'm saying.
Well, hold on. Well, I'm saying you can go to your point, but I don't think you. I think you trying to. We're not disagreeing. But go ahead.
I know we're not disagreeing. The reason why I overall agree with the 1360 rule, I might not use that exact number, but I overall do agree that black people commit the majority of the violent crime in
That wouldn't
America.
make any. That wouldn't. But we're not arguing who commits most of the violent crime. That's not the argument. The argument is about, is 1360 accurate? And I'm saying that 1360 is not accurate because there's context that matters. You just agreed to the first 2 points that I made about 3 points. You agree about the rearrest and you agreed about convictions. Now, and you also agreed about, you even explained it back to me that a Haitian American is not going to be considered a Haitian American under the crime stat. It's just going to say black. So if a person that got over here last year from Haiti, no disrespect to the Haitians, by the way, if a person got over here last year from Haiti and they committed a crime, guess what? That's black crime still. That's the only point that I'm making.
Okay, I get that. All I'm saying is, the 1360, me personally, I might not use that exact number, but the whole premise around the argument that they make when they say 1360, I agree with the whole premise that black Americans do the majority of the crime, despite us being the minority of the population.
We commit
Aspect.
per capita, sure, but I don't know why you keep bringing that up. I don't know why you keep bringing it up because I never said that that's not the case.
No, I know you said it's not the case. I'm just saying, like,
but it's like your second time bringing that up, and we both agree.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll just say this. I'll give you your props on the 1360. I don't agree with that specifically, but I agree with the premises that some Republicans use when they say it. They might need to alter how they say it, but I agree with Republicans when they say that we're responsible
But
for
but
the
but Dietrich,
majority per capita.
the stat even in and of itself is incorrect. That's why I broke it down one by one. So when you say I agree when they say it, well, how can you agree when they say it if you just agree with the first 3 points that I made about that? It's literally context that matters. And again, this is my issue with you, that the entire conversation we've been having when I was here, Taja was here, now that he left, it's like context doesn't matter to you. It's like you hear these blanketed statements, and you just run with it. You just agree with me that 3 different points you agree with. And then you said, well, I still agree that 1360 is real because what they mean is black people commit majority of the crime. Black people, if you're arguing raw numbers, no, it's actually white people, but you want to argue per capita, sure. If you want to argue per capita, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm adding on the fact that context matters, and 1360, because that's a lying stat that a lot of them people throw out, is not true. And you just said, I still believe it. Well, how can you believe something that's not true?
No, I was saying I believe the premise that they push behind it. I wouldn't use
The premise is
13,
off of a lotto, brother. I
but
don't
the
want to
premise ain't
cut you off. Go ahead. I want to cut you off.
But yeah, the premise ain't based on a lie because when you looking at it per capita, and then even when you just say as a whole, as America, let's go to the 80s and 90s to this point. 'Cause that's when the black crime exploded in the 80s and 90s
Mm-hmm.
to 2026. If we look at the period from the 80s, 90s all the way to 2026, in the 80s and 90s, I would argue and bet money that 60% of the shootings in America was coming predominantly from black people.
Would you want to
Even
bet
if
right
we
now? We want to bet right now?
I mean, we can check. If
No.
I'm
I'm
wrong,
saying
fuck
like
it.
would you want to bet? I'm a man on my word. Would you want to bet? How much you want to bet right now?
Oh, I mean, I ain't gonna bet on that.
Why
But
not? You believe it? Why not bet right now?
rent due next week, goddamn it. But
But you believe it. Hold on, wait. You said I would bet, and I'm saying let's bet, and you saying rent due. So that like what you mean? We can
yeah,
bet. I'm
I
willing
ain't
to
got time
bet.
to lose. I'm confident, but I ain't confident
But
to be playing with my money.
if you truly
But
confident, then let's bet.
why you trying to give me the bet on here
I
right
didn't
now? But
bring up the
basically,
bet. You brought up the bet. Did you brought up the bet, brother. I didn't bring up the
but
bet.
I didn't mean literally bet. I was just
Nigga,
saying
you
I
said
would
I
bet.
would bet. I'm not a betting man, but I bet on this.
Well, let me say I would concur. I would guess. Let me change the word. I would guess that in the 80s and 90s, and I would say early 2000 when niggas was sagging, that the majority of the shootings and violent crime it probably would be 60% coming from black people. In
So you don't want to bet.
2026, no. But in 2026, it might not be a hardcore 60 anymore, but I bet it's over 50. I guess it's over 50.
Well, I would think that it would probably be higher now because the population is higher. I don't know, but
But that was the final point. I mean, that's all I got to
no.
address
I got
today.
more points to make.
Oh, okay. I'll say after those, I'm gonna have to check out. 'Cause
Okay, well, hold on, real quick.
boy, been up since 4 a.m., man. Ugh.
Just by the way, I did look it up. Just to bring up the facts behind it. So of murder and non-negligent homicide, the black share, and again, these are arrests. These are not convictions, by the way. These are arrests. We just concluded and agreed that arrests and convictions are two separate things. 53 between 53 and 56% of those were black arrests. Between 43 and 46% of those were white arrests. And we can go down and down and down. None of these go over 50, or none of these go over 60. And this is from murder and non-negligent manslaughter, robbery, aggravated assault, forcible rape, and total violent crime combined. So none of them go over 60. So you would have been wrong.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
I
and if
guess I was wrong.
anybody in here, y'all can go look this up. Anybody in here, y'all can go look it up on your own. Y'all can go look it up on your own. Now, we also have to understand this too. You know, what y'all don't, what a lot of these talking points don't talk about is also exonerations. That's the point that I was trying to make. Exonerations, and that the exoneration rate for black people in general is like what 7 times higher than any other race per capita. So we got to explain that. And exonerations means that this person was fully acquitted. Nothing happened. They did not commit a crime. So like that also goes into that as well. And by the way, those stats of arrest don't account for exonerations. Meaning like if I get arrested for something and I get tried and I get convicted, or not convicted, but I get exonerated, it's still gonna show up that I got arrested.
Okay, I understand that, but when it comes to the exoneration,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm not saying this is all the cases, but we do have to like include the factor of the no snitch rule with the black community. In a lot of those cases, it probably was a scenario where the person didn't want to take a stand or they couldn't find witness because the no snitch rule.
Let me ask you
Or the
this.
person
Let me ask you this. Do you think niggas uphold the snitch rule more or not uphold the snitch rule? You think niggas snitch or don't snitch more? What do you think niggas do once they get in there and once they get them years? You think niggas more likely to snitch or are they more
in
likely not to
our
snitch?
in our generation, yeah,
And
but back
in the
then,
lab, no, because this statistic is a new statistic. So you can't say, well, back 40 years ago. No, we're talking about this statistic today because this is something that modern Republicans like to use. So we're going to keep it on modern times within the last 20
okay,
years.
I'll say
Do
my time. When it comes to anybody under 21, hell
No,
no.
no, 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 no. We're talking
I mean,
about
it's
the whole
still
scope from 15 years old all the way up until 85 years old. Do you think that the majority of black men or black people who get in there and hear them years and hear what they facing, you think they uphold the no snitch rule or they in there snitching? Now you
I
from
mean,
Mississippi. You brought up
it's
Memphis
cause
and all this
bro,
other shit.
cause yeah, so it's like it depends on who you, if you dealing
Of
with a
course, it
younger
depends on who you're
person,
talking to. We're speaking on majority. We're not
yeah,
talking about
yeah,
anecdotes. We're
the
speaking on
majority,
majority
but
in this specific conversation.
mm,
It's like you know I'm right, but you just don't want to. You don't want to concede because you
nah,
know what I'm
I'm not
saying is
saying
making
you
sense.
not right. I'm not saying you not right. Cause it's like if you talking about the YNs, they probably snitching. They
These
snitching.
old niggas be snitching too. You don't think these old niggas be snitching? That's where it came from. These old niggas be snitching. These niggas ain't uphold nothing. These old niggas be snitching.
I'm gonna say the majority of the old niggas upheld it.
How you
The
what? How you know? Come on, really?
niggas was getting whacked for it. What you
You
mean?
think the
Like,
majority of these old niggas uphold the foundation of not snitching?
yeah, cause it's like, what's
Oh
the what?
boy.
Why you gonna get freedom just to get gunned down a day later because you snitched? So that's what a lot of old heads thought. The young niggas don't get no because it's like they don't get no. They gonna find a way to bounce. Like, you know what
I'm
I'm
not saying
saying?
that.
But
I'm not saying that the old niggas did it less. I'm saying that, or they did it more. I'm saying that they still did
I'll
it.
give you a point. Today in modern times, if we count the majority and the majority of folks committing crimes, all the YNs, yeah, majority of them snitching. I'll give you that.
Okay. Uh, so we now that doesn't take away from the full exoneration point. By the way, that doesn't take away from that. That's just another sub point that you want to bring up, but that doesn't take away from the exoneration point.
Yeah, it was just some context I wanted to add, but I mean, I can't debunk your point. I can't debunk it. It is what it is. But I
Respect.
just felt, yep.
So okay. So after this conversation, do you still believe that 13% of the population commits 60% of the crime, or do you believe that there's a sub portion of that 13% who
It's a
which
sub portion.
a sub portion, and it's not 60% of the crime? It's arrests and convictions are what matters more, not arrests. Have you ever been arrested?
Hey, I've been arrested.
You know, did they take you in for book? They took me in for booking. The videos on my page. I got
Yeah,
the whole.
I got they did the
So that mean
fingerprint and all that on me.
yeah. So that mean you got arrested, nigga. Do you have a criminal record? I don't know about you, but I don't.
Uh,
You ain't got no criminal record. So guess what? You still under that stat of a black man that got arrested, even though you ain't got no criminal record, just like I don't.
Yeah, I get that, but we ain't arguing black people getting arrested. We was arguing black people committing crime
No, we're
and violence.
arguing black people convicted and arrested because you argue with the initial point was 1630. This or I'm sorry, the initial point was 1360. The 1360, that 60 involves arrests, brother. It involves
Oh,
arrests.
so if that's the case, then I'll just admit I'm wrong. I didn't know that specifically. That
Okay.
just a random arrest. I didn't know they included
Yes,
that.
they includes
So,
it includes all of it. If they bring you in, now obviously there's situations where they'll arrest you, they'll feel like, and then they'll just let you go. But when they book you in, they booked me in. I went there. I had to sit in a cell. They took my fingerprint, all my name, all that shit. I am under the stat as a black arrest, even though I have never committed a crime. I am a law-abiding citizen. I don't do nothing to nobody.
and I get that, but
So there
we
you
do
go.
gotta acknowledge that You said it was 53%. I mean,
No,
53,
no, no. That was
60.
arrest. That was arrest. That was
Oh,
again. We're not. That, again, this is. I'm gonna show you too. This is arrest, brother. And you can see it at the top. You might have to. I don't know if you can see, but if anybody that's on live, you can see this. You might have to make it like less blurry. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. I'll try to bring it back. I don't know, but this is arrest. This is not. This is not convictions. It says the whole. It
wait.
says black share of arrest, white share of arrest. So black people are arrested more than whites. Sure, 100%. I don't disagree with that. But arrest should not be labeled as a conviction. Arrest should not be labeled as a crime you committed. That's my point.
Okay, I understand that. I'm just saying if they were arrested for a violent crime or any crime like rape or in general, and you said that number was 53, then the 60 number is not like Republicans who are saying they are just vastly off.
No,
They
I don't.
may
But
take
no, 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 no. You're still not getting it, dude. I'm
no.
talking about arrests. So it wouldn't matter if the number was. It wouldn't matter if the number was 99. The point of the matter is arrests are not convictions. So whether it was 60, 20, 80, 90, 100, arrests are not convictions, and that's my point.
Okay, well, arrest or not convictions, I'll concede on that point. The only thing I gotta say in regards to that 1360 rule, they can exclude if they want people to believe them more. And if I want Republicans to be believed more, Republicans should probably break the number down further to where,
Exactly. We agree.
yeah.
100%.
So,
Charlie Kirk didn't do that. Charlie Kirk didn't do that a lot. And the initial conversation came from that video. Charlie Kirk didn't do that. And when you
oh
lie,
yeah, that's yeah.
when you lie about numbers, I don't like that. Don't lie about numbers, especially when you're supposed to be a debater. Don't lie about numbers. Bring context to numbers, especially when you're supposed to be someone like him who's a political figure and who's a debater. Don't lie about numbers. Because I wouldn't do that
I
about
get that,
nobody. Even
but
with the white crime. You know, white crime is not as high as it is because a lot of Arabs and Mexicans consider themselves white. You know that.
yeah, I know they be adding on Mexicans as white.
So
Like I saw it.
do you believe the white crime that is actually lower than what they actually put out there?
I mean, yeah, because I've seen examples of them looking at a colored person saying white man did this, and I'm like, what?
Oh, so
Like
you
so.
understand that caveat, but it's harder for you to. I had
No,
to break all
I
this down
get
for the
what you're
black
saying
caveat.
from the I get what you're saying from the black perspective,
Yeah,
but when you said that Charlie Kirk was lying about it, I'm like, because you
that's a
said
lie.
13, you
1360
said
is a
the
lie.
1360 is a lie,
It's a lie. For
but
100% is a lie.
if the number change, if the correct number ain't 1360, but let's say it's like 1053,
It's not
it's
even
it's
close to
it's
that.
ill.
No, nope. It's not even close to that. The correct number you just said it. Because we again they always quantify black males. What percentage of black
Six
people?
point five, 6.5.
Right now, what a percentage of that 6.5 is actually doing crime? Let's actually look it up. Let's actually see. Let's ask ChatGPT, and I'm just you know what I'm saying. Let's ask ChatGPT. We'll do this on live. I'll turn it up. What
I would
percentage
argue
of
20%
what
less.
what percentage of black people are black males specifically?
In the US, black men typically make up a little under half of the black population. In recent census data, black males account for around 47 to 48% of the black American population. The remainder, of course, is predominantly black women.
Now, with that number, what percentage of those black men have been convicted of a violent crime?
But
The percentage of
that's the
black
part.
men who have been
Hold on, I'll pause it. Hold on. What?
Now I was gonna say, see, that's the part, like the conviction part. That's now I understand that sometimes people will get arrested for a crime they didn't commit, but sometimes you have people who are guilty of the crime who walk away from the conviction. So that's why I can't fully just submit to that
Yeah,
conviction factor
but
and
that's not
arrest
the
factor.
overwhelming majority. In America, the majority of people who commit a crime are going to get convicted of that crime. We're not in a third world country like Mexico. And I don't know if you know about Mexican stats, but like 90% of the violent crime in Mexico or crime in general in Mexico doesn't even get they don't even get convicted. We're not a third world country, brother. We got the FBI, CIA, we got all type of data and all of this stuff to prove anything that you can do. So we're not a third world country. We don't have access to into technology to get people convicted of crimes.
No, I understand that. That's why I mentioned the factor of the snitch rule earlier. I'm just saying when you said that a majority of that crime stat that you quoted was from arrest and not convictions,
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that the arrest factor is still important, even if it is what 53%, because some people who actually did the crime, even though they didn't get convicted, They were arrested because they actually did this
Well,
crime for everybody to see.
still, but then still, we'll be back at square one, because if it was one crime, let's just say, for example, it was murder, but 10 people got arrested for that murder, but they didn't find anybody. At the end of the day, one of the people who got arrested for that murder was the person who did the crime. So if we remove that, we're still at a higher rate of arrest for absolutely no reason. I mean,
Now
in
I
New York
understand
City,
that
they had
point.
stop
I
and
understand that point.
in New York City, they had stop and frisk. Just by looking at you, you look suspicious. I'm gonna go ahead and pat you down and see if you got something going on. I mean,
So
young black males are overwhelmingly going to be looked at as criminals, regardless. I mean, it's videos of this. You can see all this shit on X, all this of like them recording the cops walking up to you, looking you up and down, checking you. They don't do that to white kids. They don't do that to white kids. I mean, the original police were slave catchers. You're already demonized no matter what. And again, I am not taking away from crime. Again, go watch my 45-point document that I broke down on live about my policies if I was an American, if I was a dictator, if I was a president. I would go harder on crime. The point that I'm making is you still need to add context to these numbers and these facts that these people, that the Republican side more so, love to throw around, because it's not true. Context matters. Now, do you want to get back to this, or you still want to respond to that point?
I'll respond to that point. The context does matter, and I'll admit. So if we talking about Charlie Kirk quoting that 1360 rule, that and specifically you can say he lied about, but I wouldn't word it as he lied. I would word it as he just didn't go in depth and broke down the numbers. That's how I would word it when Charlie Kirk was giving out that quote, because Charlie Kirk to me was not a racist. I watched hours and hours of his content, and he was not throwing out stats to demonize or make black people look mad or just blatantly lie. Like, he probably just read that stat and just read the definition from it, not definition, but the information around it. He probably didn't go out his way to divide it by two and 6.5 with a male population and all that. He just quoted the stat that the government gave. So when Kirk quoted that, that ain't him just lying. That's just him giving out the information that he received. Like, he ain't just going out his way like, oh, I know that actually it's 6.5% and they're only doing 53%. And out of that 53, it's just arrest and not convictions. Like, Charlie wasn't thinking about that. And I don't know for sure, but I would take a good guess he wasn't thinking like that. You get what I'm saying? But
Okay, so do you think is it a true? The same logic applies on the flip side. 29% of the population gets commits, or yeah. Do you believe in the 29-70 rule when it comes to whites?
2970,
Mm-hmm.
what's that rule that 29% of whites commit 70%
No,
of
no,
the
no.
crime? Or something?
29% of whites get arrested for all crime,
Oh, 29% of whites get arrested for all
or
crime.
29% of the population get arrested for all crime because that population is white.
Oh,
Or really, if we would, I mean,
mm,
and that's specific to the men. That's only specific to the men. If we add the
oh, to the
women,
men?
and if we add the women, that 29 will go up even higher, because the majority of the population of white people in
Oh,
America are
because
women.
I was
So
sure
just
finna
hold on,
say,
hold
I
on,
only
hold on,
see
hold
a,
on, hold on, hold on. The number will go up to like 50 or 60. So it will be like 60% commit 70%. I don't think you would agree with that one, would you? Or would you like to add context with that? Because that's the white side of it.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, I think it's probably more than 29. I would
That's
say
just white
because
males. It is more. That's just white males. If you add the women, it'd be more. Because that's why I'm saying the
oh
point of
yeah,
13% is just the full entire population of Black Americans. But if
yeah,
you
yeah,
add the
yeah.
full entire population of white Americans, which they make up, the number is going down, but they make up about 60. I don't know. Like, I think it's. Let me see. They make up about. They make up about 64% of the population. So that wouldn't be. So I'm saying, would you agree with that? Because it's like 60% of the population gets arrested for like 60% of all crime.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, I mean, I couldn't really. The only thing that would make me question the number is like white people who own lawyers or something probably getting exonerated to where they didn't commit the crime. That's like the only thing that would make me think it's possibly higher. Because I don't think it would be 29. I think it's probably somewhere around. If I were guessing and balling, I would probably say maybe 40, 30 something. But that,
Regardless of the fact, the main point is,
yeah,
even with white crime, the crime is not accurate, because at the end of the day, the initial point is about arrests. It is not about convictions. And when you speak and you say 13%, when the 13%, like 99% of black people are not committing a violent crime. Do you know that? Like
Yeah, I know it's not.
99%.
I know it's not the
Right.
majority,
So
but
then
it's
why
just that
so then why is the conversation starting off at 13% though? Why does that need to be the way to do it? 13% commit 60%. Well, no, it's not 13%. It's actually like probably like 1%. And then of that 1%, it's not even a full 1%. It's probably like a percentage of a 1%. And then of that percentage of the 1%, we're not added to account of rearrests, people who identify as black that aren't actually black. We're not talking about people who got arrested and actually didn't get convicted, and we're not taking into account people who got exonerated. So that's the point that I'm making. So the 13%, 1360 is not accurate, and even the 60 isn't even accurate. It's actually like 53 if we just added on arrests. The number is just pushed up to make it sound worse. That's the point that I'm making. That title is just incorrect in its entirety. Is the point that I'm making.
Okay, well, I'll agree with you on that specific point. The only disagreement I have is that Charlie was pushing that stat with a negative, like
He was,
negative,
but we can agree to
added.
disagree on that. He was, but that's not.
Yeah.
We arguing semantics at that point. Okay. So are you conceding that now you're gonna make sure that those contexts get added when you hear that talking point? The 1360 is not actually real. And if you don't believe it, you can look any of this shit up, brother. This ain't just shit I'm making up.
No, I believe.
Okay.
Like when you break it down like that, like yeah, it would make more sense for it to be
All right.
like 6.55 or like I'll concede on that
Now
factor.
it'd be like
Like
one. It'd be like one. But all right. Last point. Last point. You think Barack Obama was black?
hell no, he just
Okay.
told it was
Then we
black. He
agree.
just
Then we
yeah.
agree. So we agree on something. At least we agree on something. We both would know that man ain't black. He Kenyan and white. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up. You know what I will say? I'm gonna give you your respect because you came up and we had a little, you know what I'm saying? We had our little 1-2, you know what I'm saying? We had a little issue, whatever it is, but we get through it. And you although I think that you argue in terrible faith, at the end of the day, you came up here, you got on camera, and I respect you. The majority of these bitch ass niggas that sit in my comment section and don't get on fucking camera. You got on camera, you gave your perspective, and you went kind of for a little bit of time. You went a 2v1, even though that's not what I wanted. But Taji addressed you directly, so I wanted him to give his perspective to come at you. So I respect you for coming up here and at least stand on your 10 as a man.
All right, appreciate the opportunity.
For sure, I appreciate you coming up. Much love and much respect to you.
All right.
For sure.